saved the longest for the last, right?
Evidently so.
I blame that on you. You could have trimmed a lot more out of it.
Dude, this slideshow, 204 slides.
Yeah.
I trimmed it down to 128.
You did it what?
This chapter is 204 slides.
Right.
I trimmed it down to 128.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's the longest one out of all of them. And basically, this is covering your
The entire book. Oh,
the paper. Pretty much what this is. That's what I'm saying. This should be at the very beginning of the class. Hey, TJ! Did you pass?
Yes.
Sweet.
I need to put that thing in the box while I'm thinking about it.
75-25?
Sure.
You're awesome. All right.
The PowerPoints that are on the website, are they the long ones? or-
Yes, they're the long ones. What I show you are the trim ones.
That's why I was having free access.
Yeah,
YouTube.
there's some stuff that they add, and as long as you read, you're getting the information. Alright. So chapter 10, Emergency Services Administration and Planning. Any questions about the paper so far? Like Phil asked a while ago, can you break it up kind of with headers and all that stuff so it's not one long paper? Absolutely, break it up with headers. Break up the different sections with a header and all that stuff. I'm not doing a word count. I'm not doing line spacing. I'm not saying how many pages. As long as you cover the information.
Is it, because I was looking over it on Officer 3 on the skills check on 3 and 4. Officer 3 skills has like 7 subsections before it's got 4 that covers the 7 more in depth. When we're going through the skills check, I'll make sure we meet all of everything on the rubrics. Probably best just to use chapter or Officer 4 skills. I mean, if we're writing one paper to cover everything.
Yeah, as long as it, like I said, as long as you're covering, I mean, the dimensions. If the dimensions in 4 are the same as 3, just in more depth, you're fine. Yeah. Yeah, look at the skill sheets when you're doing your paper too, just to make sure you cover everything. Since it is one paper. Like I said, when we do your skills, I think Phil, you're December 3rd? Is it December, is that option December 3rd?
No, I think they're.
You're December 1st, Phil.
December 1st, yes.
Yeah, we're gonna do you right at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'll let Phil and Mark know, but we'll do you that morning and then.
He's getting off that one.
Oh, you're getting out that morning?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll have to let Mark and Phil know that. I was thinking you're on duty then. Okay, so y'all are coming on that. That's right. And then B and A will be December 3rd. And we'll do a shift first and then rotate it from there. So it shouldn't take long for each to do. Just make sure you look at them. Because basically you're presenting your paper and all that stuff with the little added stuff, but it's not anything that you won't be able to accomplish. All right, learning objective number 1. Explain considerations for a strategic plan. Determine organizations' missions based on our community needs and jurisdiction's leaders' goals. So basically when it comes to strategic planning for our department, we've got to see what the needs are out in our community. We got to see the level of services that we're providing, and are we missing any? Do we need to enhance some, or do we need to change the course? But at the same time, we've got to look at what our council goals are and try to make sure that what level of service we're providing, how they fit into the council goals. As a chief officer and staff, you got to work together. You got to develop and implement your strategic plans, establish your training programs, perform community risk assessment, and support the planning process. So this is all part of, like I said, the strategic planning. You've got to work not just within the members of this department, but with city administration, with council, with the public. You use the accepted planning models, review governmental mandates, and gather the data. So you're going to look to see, like the city. When we were doing our strategic plans in the city, there was a kind of a set format that the city was looking for. So every department, when they did their strategic plan, followed that same format, just with the information that was being needed. And you've got to look over it because the city. I don't know if we're still doing it right now because of the change of city managers, but if and when we get back on that, doing that strategic planning, you've gotta look and read into it. You've gotta make sure you're covering your bases from a department standpoint. You gotta make sure you've got some long-term goals, your short-term goals, so your future, because the thing is, when it comes to making big purchases, they reflect back upon the strategic plan. They reflect back upon the comprehensive plan. Reviewing the governmental mandates, those are just good supporting items, especially, with the keyword mandates. It really helps us get equipment and information and things that we need. And then being able to gather the data. Depends upon your time frame, depends on how quickly you have to work or how much time you actually have. But being able to gather the data, being able to research it, not just locally, but other departments in the state or across the nation. The project management team, when it comes to doing strategic planning, creates and implements the strategic plan. And part of this team are going to be members of chief officers, members of the community, and members of the organization. That's who makes up the project management team on putting together the strategic plan. So this is kind of an example of a planning process for South Bend Fire Department with their vision statement. You've got to make sure that you define your mission, your vision, your core values, your goals, and your objectives, and from that allows you to develop your strategies to operate successfully in a particular environment. So, as a department, we have a mission statement, we have a vision statement, we have core values. We don't really have a section for goals and objectives, but we could add that without a doubt. But all that right there is kind of what our baseline, our foundation for building out this strategic plan. You're going to do a SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is your strengths, your weaknesses, your objectives that filter into your strategic plan, the objectives and strategies, which reinforces your strengths, capitalizes on opportunities, and addresses and correct or prevent weaknesses and threats from affecting the organization. So you gotta look at what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are, and what your threats are within our community. It's what we do best. We play the what if game a lot. What if this happened, or what churches are a threat? Because I think the Mulberry Church was a spot that was being watched for a while. That's a threat, a potential terrorism type threat. Again, you play that what if, looking at the different homes, looking at the different schools. When it comes to active shooters, looking at the high rises, seeing what threats we may have there. With strategic plan without implementation and control, the plan could become a wasted effort. If you don't have a plan, you don't have an implementation plan, or you don't have control, basically you're wasting your time. We're spinning our wheels, we're putting in a lot of time for nothing at all. Long-term plans can be 10 plus years, but can be ineffective due to unforeseen circumstances. And obviously extremely short-term plans can definitely lack a vision. So, when you're doing your long-term plan, that's going to be more on the lines of, what's up, buddy?
What's up? Morning.
When you're doing your long-term plans, that's going to be more on the lines of looking at the growth of this community, looking to see, okay, we've got a station here, but we're going to have development, we're going to get a bunch of Episcopal High School, rumor is they may be going away. Just hypothetically, not true. And we're going to get, commercial buildings, residential living, 4 or 5 stories high, all around that square. That's a 10-year plan. So you've got to look to say, okay, if that's something that's being done or looked at, what are we doing in our department to prepare ourselves for it? The terminal area, that's still an unknown area, what's going to happen in that area. There's still a lot of talk of commercial, there's still a lot of talk of residential going up, different things of that nature. And as far as, that area of growth and development, that's one area that could be a potential benefit to us for putting on a second Medicaid. You get more homes, you get more businesses, you get more areas, you're going to need more staffing. A ladder truck or a Quinn. How does that play in? Again, these are the long-term plans. Obviously, the short-term plans, could lack a vision. It could be just something that you just do to be doing, but with no vision in sight, really no benefit to carry on after the short-term aspect of it. You want to make sure it's comprehensive and it's a very detailed process. You don't want to rush through your strategic plan. You want to make sure you set up a good timeline. You want to make sure that you allow yourself and your team plenty of time to discuss it, talk about it, research it, brainstorm it, chew it up, spit it out, scrap it if you have to, and start all over again. Make sure, but when it's all said and done, you want it as detailed as possible. There was a department that I was talking to, and they went through their whole entire strategic plan, and when they got to looking at it, that whole department was left out of it. It's like, this ain't right. Why is the fire department not in the strategic plan? You know, there are opportunities for growth. There's different things of that nature, but they were completely left out of the strategic plan.
I needed to tell you something.
Yeah, and the chief's like, there's a problem with this. We're not in the future of this city. You know, why, you know, so you've got to look at it. You got to make sure it's detailed. Again, with a good strategic plan, a good comprehensive, it's easy to reflect back on, and it helps with justifying budget purchases and so forth. Challenges members to evaluate examples, values, beliefs, philosophies, and needs. Challenges individuals to work as a team. Empowers internal stakeholders to provide input, and should focus on input from all levels. You know, this isn't just something that we as chief officers are responsible for, it's everybody in this department. You know, Fig's got 1 foot in and 1 foot out. He's had 30 years of service, you know. As long as he doesn't buy another truck, he might be gone tomorrow. If he buys one, he'll be here another 5 years. You know, the old Coas phrase.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm done with this truck's paid for.
It all depends on what the deer lease and the money I have to spend on the deer lease, whether I stay another year.
But I mean, you know, he's got 30, I've got 20, Davis has got 15, you got 15, you've got
5 this time.
5, and you've got 22? 22. So we get, you know, yeah, we can help influence it from those that's got tenure and all that, but at the same time, we've got to have input from Brandon Kano. We've got input from, you know, from everybody that's got 5 years or less, because I mean, they are the future of this department, and they will have a vision as far as the direction that they like to see it go. So we've got to encompass everything as a whole. When it comes to plan development process, the program creation, initiate and approve your strategic planning process. Because part of that process may involve budgeting, developing a budget for this. You may have to allocate funds in order to get what you're looking for from a strategic plan. At the same time, as you're going through your strategic plan, you're earmarking things. Okay, we're going to have to buy a ladder truck in 15 years because of the growth, the development of the community and all that. So what can we start doing in the budget development now to get us ready for 15 years down the road? Increase a little bit, set aside, like we used to do with, I think, the last engine. I don't know if we did, not 33, but 30 they used to put so much back every year, so when it came time.
Started sprinkling, so they realized that they had money there, so they.
Right, rainy day fund. Part of the process. You know, you gotta define your mission and vision. Your mission statement, what the organization wants to do now. You know, and that's the thing, we've had our mission statement for, what, 5, 6 years? The same one? Because it was when Daryl was here 7 years? 7 or 8 years. Yeah, it may be time to go back and revisit it. Do we need to look at modifying it? Do we need to look at changing it? You know, are we good with where it's at? Is it the direction we're going? You know, our vision statement, what the organization wants to be. You know, we're progressive. We're adding new treatment. We're adding new skills. We're adding new techniques on the EMS side. We're adding it on the fire side. You know, we're enhancing our ship commanders, you know, and their ability out in the field and all that. We're trying to expand our organization. But with all this expansion, all this addition, is it what we want to be? Do we need to go back and look at our vision statement and tweak it as well? You know, defining our organization values, the foundation of the organization, state why the organization was established and what it does, intended to govern ethical responsibility of all members. And then establishing goals and objectives, you know, the end results of the activities, determining your SWOT analysis, and support your mission statement. So all of this is just examples of what you need to do in the development process for your strategic plan. Identifying strategic alternatives, you know, develop your strategies, how you're going to get to that point that you're looking at. Rank based on established criteria and select the best option. And develop contingency plans. You know, if plan A doesn't work, we've got to have a plan B. If plan B doesn't work, we've got to have a plan C. You know, develop an implementation strategy. You gotta have timelines, you gotta have resources, monitoring criteria, evaluation procedures, policies, and revision steps. You know, once your plan's put together, how often are you gonna revise it? You know, our SOGs, I think we're trying to do what, every 3 years, trying to do a revision every 3 years. But you gotta have, because, you know, the long-term goals are there, your mid-range goals are there. You gotta have revisions because, I mean, you're gonna accomplish your short-term and you gotta be able to update it and keep things moving forward. Identify potential for conflict between goals or conflicting goals between units. Every aspect must be compatible and complementary. Goals of one division/program cannot undermine those of another. Gotta work hand in hand. We've gotta be, you know, gotta make it work to the best of our ability so we don't cause any type of separation within our department, within our future, our vision. As we move forward with the different programs. So here's implementing the strategic plan. Starts with the fire chief and it's put down to the battalion chiefs. Battalion chiefs take it, they drop it down to their company officers. The company officers take the plan and they train and read through it with their company personnel. And that's kind of how the implementation process is going to work, or would work when it comes to doing the plan. You know, making sure everybody, you got to have the timeline. You got to make sure everybody's had opportunity to read it, ask questions. You know, implement when this is going to take effect. Again, part of the evaluation process. How often are you going to evaluate it? How often are you going to look at to see if you're getting the results that you want? Are you meeting those goals? But remember, where it goes down, it's also going to have room and flexibility for it to come up as well. Increasingly detailed operational plans. You know, you got your mission and vision and values associated with your budget. Some things may incorporate capital improvement plans, which will be your action plan and strategies. And these plans are anywhere from 12 months, 1 to 3 years, and 3+ years. Knowing and understanding your objectives, your performance measures and targets, that's your SWOT, which all adds up to your strategic plan. Your strategic plan is your baseline, your foundation of our department. And from there, we build up on it as we increase and go up to the top. When it comes to monitoring, establish your measurements to judge plan's effectiveness based on your desired outcome and match your measurements in the evaluation. You got to make sure that as you're going through, as you're implementing your plan, that you're monitoring, you're evaluating. You got to make sure that, you know, again, if you have an outcome that's not happening like you want it to, you know, go back at that point and evaluate to see if you need to tweak something, if you need to change something. You know, encourage it to get the feedback from the staff. The organization's performance and success of the strategic plan are the same. You know, making sure that what we say we do on paper is what we do actually out in the field, not what we do on paper is completely different out in the field. We've got to make sure we mirror that, and we're doing exactly what our plan, and we're moving in the direction of what we've desired in our plan. So when you monitor your success, you've got to make sure you balance out your actual results and your evaluation criteria. Again, we've talked about this before with the other chapters, but if you're during your evaluation criteria, if you're not getting the results that you need, you may have to stop, take a step back, reevaluate it, and see what needs to be done to tweak it. Or maybe it's just, okay, it's only been 6 months, let's give it a full year. Maybe you need to look at it a little bit longer before you make any type of modifications. Under the evaluation, remember it's goals-based evaluation, performance evaluation, and outcome-based evaluation. You got to look at it from a complete 360. All different areas, all different angles. You know, my view being an administrator is going to be different than y'all's view being out in the field. You know, I don't know, I don't see what goes on a daily basis out in the field, but y'all do. You know, if this is what our when plan is, and you're implementing it's not working, then we need to modify and change it. But if it is working, we need to keep pushing on and keep moving forward. When it comes to revision conditions annually to maintain a consistent life cycle. Again, we've got to make sure that we're doing the revisions as often as we possibly can, but more on an annual basis. Because your short-term goals are going to be accomplished and you need to update. Your short-term goals are going to be accomplished and you need to remove them off your plan as you continue to move forward. So then a mid-range plan goal eventually will become a short-term goal, and you can be adding long-term goals to your plan as you revise it. Where there is critical change in the operating environment. Again, knowing what's going on out in our community, knowing what's going to happen, in the terminal area, knowing what's going to happen with the development. Building in Bel Air is not slowing down. The homes are going up left and right in the city. And you look at what Bel Air High is doing, the new high school. You look at Gordon Elementary fixing to come to the ground, or Mandarin fixing to come to the ground, minus 2 trees. Minus 2 trees. Alton, I'm just gonna go cut them down one night.
So, has anything more been said about what they call the VistaNet corridor?
As far as their commercial district downtown?
Yeah.
As far as any type of development and all that, yeah, I don't think there's been much here lately because they've had a lot of turnover over development services. So I think a lot of that, they're trying to just finish up the projects that they have, like Spruce and Fifth, and then take a step back and look at all that moving forward. Morning, David.
Morning.
Pass. Yay! Good Dolphins. Tua. But yeah, looking at, like I said, looking at the development, I mean, the high rises, how occupied are those, or are we going to look at getting new ones? I mean, like I said, I haven't seen any plans, even 4800 Fortis. If he is able to get the permitting and the funding, that whole entire block is going to change drastically. I mean, the whole thought of a movie theater, commercial businesses, bowling alley, and all that in our little bit of city is going to bring a lot of people. It's going to bring a lot of people. And that's just phase 2. I don't remember what phase 3 was. And supposedly he's buying the Shell station at 5910, tearing it down, and building a hotel.
Who's this?
The guy that owns 4800 Fortis, Chevron. That's the word on the street.
Oh, we get a hotel like that.
Because it's not going to be a Motel 6 or anything like that.
That'd be
Yeah.
really nice hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we've got an opportunity to have an increase, a drastic increase of citizens and people coming to visit our city just in that block range alone. And then who knows what's going to happen again in terminal. When it comes to revision process, same steps as the creation requires plans to be altered and new plans to be created. So as you're going through, as you're updating it, you're going to modify it as you go, keeping the same process as you did through the creation, but obviously not as potentially as in depth because you're just reviewing it, revising it, and moving forward with it. Any questions over objective 1? All right, objective number 2, explain considerations for operational planning. So you got your proposed strategic plan time frame. You got your short-term goals, which are up to 1 year. Your intermediate-term goals, which are 1 to 3. And then your long-term goals are your 3 to plus. I would say, I would make sure you know the years, because I remember that was a question on my state test as far as what the different, you remember seeing that too?
And that SWOT?
That SWOT, yeah. There were several questions on the SWOT analysis. But on your operational plans, they've got to be developed to support the goals and objectives of your strategic plan. And they've got to be linked to budget development. If it's not linked to budget development, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to be able to accomplish your operational planning, your strategic planning. You've got to make sure that each year that when we're doing our planning process that we're adding things into our budget, that we're working on trying to purchase the items that we need in order to accomplish our short-term, intermediate, long-term goals. Short-term operational plans focuses on all projects, programs, and activities that occur within a budget or calendar year. Usually developed by a chief officer responsible for a specific function and may result from project management process. So remember, short-term, we do that every year. We're starting that now. We're going to start that again in January when we do our budget process. We're creating short-term operational plans of items that we want to purchase to help keep this department moving forward. The issue is, it's good in doing the budget, but the issue is we're planning to go back and look at our strategic plan and see where we are in comparison to that and how we need to update that moving forward. So that way they line up. Intermediate term operational plans, these are, remember, 1 to 3 years. These are more specific than long range and strategic plans. Flexibility is necessary to meet potential challenges. And I can honestly say, I can see our second medic unit, instead of being a short-term goal, be bumped to an intermediate type of goal. Just for the fact of, depending on which route we go, trying to find $1 million+ to staff 9 people. But it could be something that, hey, you know what, let's do it, let's put it in place, and then we put some, not money back, but maybe we can budget for into the future. But that's still moving on, and right now it's still looking for the FY22 budget. So it's getting some good positive feedback so far. So again, part of the intermediate operation could be preventative maintenance, could be a reorganization of the department, it could be a resource allocation, or it could be equipment replacement. We kind of have with our vehicle equipment technology area, we have a replacement schedule, and some things are replaced every 5 years, some are every 7 years, and some are every 15. So those are going to be more of your long range goals, but it doesn't necessarily mean like, okay, our Life Pack 15, we may budget in 2 years to upgrade it to the Life Pack 23, or whatever equipment out there that needs to be replaced based upon the schedule. SCBAs, it seems like every 2 or 3 years they're upgrading and updating the SCBAs. So in your long-term operational plans, these are outlines of accomplishment of goals in a specific area over a number of years, based on research and current conditions. Some examples are facility relocation, staffing requirements, apparatus replacement, contracts, real estate purchases, additions to the service area, or response time benchmarks. Being a small community, yeah, we're not most likely going to have any type of facility relocation. I don't see us moving to inside the loop, giving us any more of an advantage than where we are right here. But, you never know. There could be an idea, there could be a need for some type of satellite station because of the growth in the north end of the district. Staffing requirements, obviously, if we wanted to get to a 4-man pumper crew every single day, we may look at long-term, okay, 3+ years, we want to put our plan together and look at that down the road. Apparatus replacement, we talked about that. Contracts can go 3 to 5 years. A lot of times, a lot of them are just annual. And as we move forward on that. When it comes to long-term planning, it requires thorough knowledge of the adopted codes and standards. You've got to know what the codes are. You've got to have a good understanding when you're putting together your strategic plan. We just adopted the 2019 International Fire Codes here for Bell, and I think they are, what are they updated, 3 to 5?
2018.
Is it 2018? That was 2019. No, one of the years. Yeah. And they're updated every 3 to 5 years, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. So, we've got to kind of do the research on the codes and standards to see what direction the city's going, to see what they're looking for, how we want to update it. What are some of the specifics that are in the codes that we need to make sure we prepare for. We talked about last week legislation and getting in front of it and getting involved and really diving in and learning. There's things when it comes to the different bills that are being proposed, because I think next year is a legislation year, so there'll be legislation going through the different bills. But if there's things that we want to support or things we want to put together to try to get established, that's kind of ties into this. One of the biggest ones, and I think it's coming back up again, is residential sprinklers. I think that's become another hot topic. If it wasn't for the Plumbing Association, it would be statewide most likely, because the Plumbing Association actually fought that tremendously, which doesn't make a bit of sense. It's more money for them. But these codes and standards can be used as references in developing and justifying budgets, writing specifications, and creating SOPs. It is a good policy to annotate long-term plans with the appropriate code or standard that justifies it. So anytime part of the plan, if there's something in there that we document, we put, and it ties back to a code, it's definitely good to have that code annotated with that objective, with that goal, with that strategy, so it has a reference back to it, and it provides us supporting documentation. Capital improvement should be developed annually, prioritized, and submitted to the budget. Requires projected future needs. We don't have a lot of CIPs, because we don't have a lot of big, high-dollar projects within our department. But it doesn't mean down the road that we can't. It doesn't mean down the road that we wouldn't have something where we see a need to do. Some examples would be facility construction and renovation, purchase of apparatus and equipment, and installation of exhaust capture system. So those are some examples. So if we ever decide to go with the Plimo vent in our station, you know, that's going to definitely be a capital improvement project. Real estate, again, land for new stations, administrative training, supply, and maintenance facilities. This is long-term investment commitment. Project team to create a station location plan and land to be acquired for planning. So part of the whole planning process is, okay, we need a second station on the north end of terminal. Now we acquire we find a way to go ahead and purchase the land that we'd like to put that station on.
It's too bad we couldn't get the guy that bought the Fortis.
Right.
Chevron's area right there to give a little section.
We just need some room on the ground floor of your gigantic residential for our
Maybe on the
satellite
backside
station.
of the bowling alley or movie theaters.
Yeah. That's New York style. They got station at the bottom and whatever around you, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Nobody would like it.
That's it.
Nobody would like it.
Fleet replacement, you know, these are plans must be made well ahead of time due to the expense. We have a vehicle replacement schedule. I think the next one, honestly, I think was supposed to be Cascade 21, so it kind of comes at the right time. Because our Tahoes and Chiefs rides are every 5 years, medic units are every 7, and the engines are every 15. So you've got to look at what's coming up, what's being scheduled to be replaced, and start working on that. Make sure that's incorporated in your strategic plan.
Why are we so far outside the national standard on our replacement of engines?
Because they're nothing compared to what Houston does.
But we're not too far off.
The
Even
national standard is 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years frontline, 10 years reserve. And we're at 15. Did we set that, or did the city budgetary people set that?
I think it was
There was, years and years and years ago, pre-me, the city brought somebody in, I don't know if it was Teach, ISO, I don't know who it was, but they did a study and said with our call volume and with the size of our city, these engines should last 15 front, 15 reserve. So then they took that as gospel and said,
The
oh,
only
an engine
study
will
I read
last 30
said
years.
10 is recommended, but we can stretch it to 12. So
So is it still applicable for?
I think maybe we've gone beyond.
I don't think it
what was
is
recommended.
because of technology.
Right.
These things, of course, mine's got a cracked screen, but a computer's only good for 2 years, 2 years. And that's what these engines are nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, it's no longer can we open up the pump housing and weld a new lever onto it,
Right.
because it's all push button and computerized solenoids.
And the pumpers are chasing ambulance everywhere now. I'm not sure.
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
other thing, we didn't do anywhere near as much of that when that study came out, because I was here for that study. I
I
talked with
don't
that
remember
chief
when it
too.
was.
It was early on, it was probably before we bought, 30.
Late
if I remember
nineties.
right. And, yeah, it was late 90s or right at early 2000s, I can't remember. But even then, he said, and I wish I could find it, it's probably in the archives somewhere, because it said, Tech 10 is the national standard, but maybe we could stretch it to 12. And we've gone well beyond that at 15, because I think somebody probably just looked up ISO credit and said, oh, a pumper's good for 30 years. So 15 here, 15 there.
Yeah.
And I
We're getting
bet
close to
that's what
15 on
happened.
33, aren't we?
for 30,
For 33?
33 close.
Nine.
So, what?
Well, I mean, if we go with an MTA, we're at the half-life
Right.
before it goes to reserve. In all realistic, on 33.
And that's part of my concern when it comes
We're
to
at
long-term
17,
planning.
so 33, 30.
Is realistically, when I'm looking at it long-term planning wise, there's an expression that you don't want to run the shaggy edge of things, if you know
Right.
what I mean, and that's right now, even if we were to just be looking at ISO credit, we're barely running the shaggy edge of everything,
Yeah.
much less the actual usability of everything.
Yeah. You're You're not gonna get 12 more years, 13 more years out of that truck.
Which one? Neither one of them?
Either one.
Either one of them?
You got a good point.
And it's just technology.
That's all it is, that's all it is.
You know, but maybe, you know, something we need to look at is, do we need the 685 pump, $685,000 pump? You know, could we get away with the
$800,000
$450 at $300,000? That's like.
Well, and we might even be able to get a decent hit for a little less than that if we didn't go with all the bells and whistles, but I
So
don't
if
know
we,
could get
if we
anything
brought
that's
the
gonna
price of the
be
pumper down,
Yeah.
then,
It's
you
not
know,
eight for the-
yeah, we may be setting ourselves up to get in line with the 10-10 replace.
Instead of stacking everything in this dog on one pumper, we could put a lot on the new 21 and.
Right.
I can tell you what, man, whenever we started this, I took cheap, the mini pumpers. You can get a mini pumper with a 2,000 GPM pump. Where it hurts us is the ladder carrier, the
Right.
ladder storage.
Exactly.
That's where it hurts us. We would need a pumper, we would need a second ambulance responding, a second engine, but get a mini pumper with a 2,000 GPM, and then you have a ladder truck following you.
The other option is trying to buy a, for lack of a better word, true city pumper instead of what we have out
Yeah,
here.
gotta have a rescue pumper.
Right, exactly. A true city pumper, and you can even put the rescue doors on it. But yes, it's a lot smaller and everything else, and you have to pick and choose what you put on it. But because it's smaller, you usually end up being able to get them a little cheaper, and it still has the pumping capacity, all the hose capacity, everything else. It's just you can't carry, you know, everything with the double butt wiper package with it, so to speak. And that may be something we have to look at long term, is changing what we view a pumper as, especially if 80% of our calls are chasing an ambulance.
And it's an industry problem. It's not just a
Yeah,
Bel Air problem.
it's an industry. Because a lot of departments have started looking at demo units, they've started looking at showroom models and things of that nature, and cutting back on the
Before we
idea of
bought
having all
this
the bells and
one-
whistles and just getting the necessities and.
Before we bought this one, I went to Chief Anderson and I said, I can have almost everything we want in a demo unit right now for, I think it was $350,000 or $390,000. It would have been half the price. And it was a demo unit with 5,000 miles on it.
We do that in a week.
So that's why I was like,
Depends on what shit's on duty.
so,
Yeah.
but that was, he said, well, the city won't even consider that. I said, can we ask? And then we wouldn't have waited an additional year for the truck. So those are things we do need to consider.
Yeah, get a smaller truck, and then another smaller truck for a rescue truck to provide
Exactly.
blocking on the freeway for the rest of us, 'cause we know,
You mean truck like ladder truck, right?
Then you gotta find the manpower.
we just justified it.
Wow.
Second.
There's a $200,000 truck out there that justifies why we need a second.
That second medic unit can flex onto a
I
block.
mean, I didn't mean to get off track with the.
No, but this is good discussion when it comes to.
Y'all
We're
fix
already
it.
running, in essence, well beyond
Right.
the national standard,
Right.
and we're running at the the shaggy edge of everything. And what a lot of people don't consider is, depending on the timing of our next ISO evaluation, we are at the point where when you get to those last 5 years,
You're trying to do what.
the actual value that you get for that truck drops off,
Drops
is my
off, yeah.
understanding. So that could put us in a bad position
Yeah.
as far as that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good talk, guys. I like it.
Dude.
So close. Beat that slide.
So when it comes to staffing needs, maintain a minimum staffing level to provide the required level of service. Establishing the number of people required to perform the task, allow personnel to fill vacant spots. Project number of retirements and promotions, and allow for time to recruit, hire, and train new personnel. You know, that's everything we've got to look at. It's everything that we consider every year when it comes to budget, putting together the budget. You know, are we gonna have individuals that we're gonna have to hire? Are we gonna have to train new people? We're gonna have individuals that are going to retire, they're gonna potentially leave and go somewhere else, or we need to expand our level of services as well. I mean, you know, hey buddy, man.
I didn't know you were teaching the class. She followed about
What you got there?
Just a little breakfast. You want something?
Nah, I just see what all you got.
My bad.
Biscuit, eggs.
Thank you.
Man.
Holla at your team.
But knowing that here, we've got to make sure that you ride 6 every day at a minimum, 7 max. City of Houston's in a situation because of their staffing issues. They have so many people that call off on a daily basis, 100 plus at times, that they're getting to the point now they're shutting down trucks just to maintain a 4-man engine crew, or they're creating task force because they're riding short. And I think it's starting to catch up to them because word's starting to get out that they can survive with 3 people per engine versus 4 with what they have. So I think they're hurting themselves in the long run, but at the same time, not being able to hire anybody is hurting them as well.
Can you imagine what all the structure cars in some of these districts, 2 people going in again?
Yeah.
That's very.
But when it comes to staffing needs, you got to think about retention. We struggle here from time to time hiring somebody. But what are we doing as a department to retain the individuals that we have? What are things that we could add to our department to help retain and keep the tenure individuals so we don't have people leaving our department? That's one thing I feel like we're very fortunate of. We have people, unless they're young and go home and they want to go fight fire, is we keep people. People stay. They like the department. They like the small department mentality. Promotions are not that often or that frequent, but at the same time, we don't have a lot of turnover, which is very good. We could be in a situation like PD is right now where they're down 10. They're short 10. Hopefully they get that filled shortly. But the question is, there's a lot of talk right now industry-wide about what are we doing with recruiting? Are we bidding ourselves out of jobs? We're struggling to get firefighter paramedics. What are some options we need to look at? Well, that's a problem, but let's look at the retention side of things. Why are we losing people? What are we not doing to keep the individuals that we have in order to help maintain our minimum staffing levels? Any questions over objective number 2? All right, we'll dive into objective number 3. Training program requirements. Training goes hand in hand as equal to operations. Safe, effective, consistent, and efficient. Education is the acquisition of knowledge through the academic means. Going to college, going to different training classes, going to seminars, webinars, things of that nature. That's going to be your education. Where training is going to be your vocational and technical skills, hands-on, getting out, going to a house, cutting holes, getting out, working with the tools, building props, going through the maze and all that upstairs, learning new techniques. That's your examples of your training. As a training officer, their job is the responsibility to evaluate and forecast the training requirements. Develop a training program to what they feel is best for the department. Determine funding sources, in order to accomplish the program and be able to make the program as successful as possible. Sweet.
We're almost there. 37 and 128.
Yeah, we're getting close.
This is the last chapter, isn't
At least
It
less
is.
than 100 now.
It is. Determine the alternative training sources. What are some backup plans if plan A doesn't come through or because COVID struck? What's our options now? How are we going to train in order to maintain our skills and to continue to stay proficient? And then evaluate the training program. As staff members, you've got to provide the feedback. You've got to provide input to Davis as far as on the training program for this department. He's going off of industry standards. He's going off of what he feels like is the best for this department and all that. But if he doesn't know or doesn't get the feedback as far as, hey, we went left and we should have went right, with that, he's got to be able to have that feedback in order to help keep the training program moving forward. Evaluation of training requirements, obviously there's legal mandates, things that we have to make sure we maintain. Texas Commission on Fire Protection, our CE hours. We have to make sure we maintain those 18 a year plus 2 for every discipline you're certified and appointed in.
Not certified.
Appointed in. Then there's the NIMS requirements, and there's EMSCE, building and fire codes, training standards, community needs, hazard assessment, and risk analysis. These are all part of the evaluation of training requirements set forth for the department. When it comes to putting together the program, this is everything that should be encompassed and for that program. Under the building and fire code should regulate construction, renovation, use, and safety features of response area structures. Sit down with Alton, go over the building codes, go over the different things. Pull up to one of these construction sites and go walk through a home being built. Look at the different ways that they're doing the different things while it's, being framed up or while it's framed. So you really kind of get an idea of what the skeleton of that structure looks like. And when it's done, you really don't know or might not have a good understanding of it. Training programs should be developed and presented at code interpretation and application. And training should be adjusted as community challenges over time. Go look at a residential sprinkler system as it's being installed, before they sheetrock it, and I'll let you kind of get an idea of how it works. Again, schedule with Alton to take you out and go look at the different ones. Let them go do a final with you. Let them go do, just walking through these different homes, because they don't mind at all. These builders do not mind you coming out there and pulling up and doing a walkthrough of their site.
With no notice?
Yeah, you can just go ask somebody and say, hey, we just would like to do a walkthrough and take a look at it, or check with Alton ahead of time and know what address you want to go to. He might be able to contact the builder just to make sure there's no issues, but absolutely. As we know, our homes in Bel Air are different shapes, sizes, and challenges. As the chief officer, you must be aware of the requirements and ensure certification and compliance. Bless you.
Oh, not COVID.
NFPA 1400 series standards when it comes to training, NFPA 1000 professional qualification standards, NFPA 1500, which is your safety standard, adult and vocational training guidelines, and jurisdictional mandates as well. So these are all things that's got to be taken into consideration when it comes to the requirements and ensuring your certification and that our department is compliant. When it comes to community needs may dictate the training. Physical and geographical characteristics, demographics, community planning and development, and building and fire codes. Depending on where you're at, depending on what you're training on, every house is different. Every house that y'all go to, you can do a different skill, different thing. But at the same time, what is special about the Southwell area that may not be special about this area here?
Smells like shit.
You're right. You have to wear an air pack every time you're on mimosa. It's not. But looking at those different angles. From a community member standpoint, involvement in strategic planning and development of organization's mission statement provide indication of the required training. Service area indicates level of service and training the population is willing to support. You can very easily go out and meet with our Bel Air Business Association and talk to the different businesses and see maybe there's some type of training we can do with them. Do a little pre-plan of their facility, and they can show us some things about their facility, but at the same time, we can talk to them about their answer system, about fire extinguishers, about exits, and that aspect of it. So, that's where your community members, when you go to block parties, talk to the citizens and say, hey, what are some things, through outreach that we can do, or maybe they have something special about their house and you want to go look at it. I mean, how many hidden rooms do we have in some of these homes? Do what?
The safe rooms?
The safe rooms, yeah. Go behind that bookcase, pull out that book, and it opens up. I mean, so just getting out and just talking. When it comes to risk analysis, identify the level of risk the organization is willing to accept to protect the lives and the property. From your risk analysis, when you identify the risks that are out there in our community, you can base that, okay, this is what we need to train on. And these are the decision-making directions for the fire officer. Just like you pull up to every scene, whether it be a structure fire, MVA, EMS call, you're evaluating, you're doing your scene sizing, you're seeing what risks are being presented. And then you're trying to determine, is it worth the risk of sending crews into a structure fire to save what? Are we saving somebody, or are we just trying to save property? Sometimes you have to make the hard decision and not allow anybody to go in, and sometimes you make the decision and you allow them to go in and try to save as much as they can. But you've got to do a risk analysis on every single call that you go on. And then, like, again, as you come across different risks out in the community, you can bring that information back and say, hey, you know what, this was a call that we experienced, this was a risk that we came across, but we've never really trained upon it. Let's share it with the other two shifts. Let's put together a training class and share it with them as well, so they can hear our experience, but maybe they've experienced it, and we can see a different angle on it. When it comes to sources of funding for training, as a chief officer, you should pursue all potential funding sources, from private to operating program budget to grants. Operating program budget is going to be our 570 account. Grants could very easily be through the Bel Air Police and Fire Foundation, and then private sources could be, could be a business that wants to just give us some money and pay for the training as well. The grants could be the Texas Forestry Service. With grants, a lot of times we used to have to go to council ahead of time to get approval. With grant, we're able to, at least with the foundation, we're able to go straight to the foundation, get approval, and then once we get approval, now we can take it to council. So that way, if they deny, then we have to go to council. If they approve it, then we can move forward and take it to council for their approval to accept the money.
Like better time management.
Yeah, going to council and then going back. So things have changed a little bit, which is fine. Gotta adapt, so. Any questions on the training program? All right, we're moving along good. Let's take a break. Let's take 10. So you working today, TJ?
Yes, I'm Mark.
Hey, Mark?
Yes, he worked for me Sunday and I'm working for him today. But Phil's off, so I'm
Phil's
running
off,
out.
so you're right now. Okay. That will work.
Sir.
Mark Allen calls.
Oh, yeah, I need to go look at something for Mark. I'm glad you said that. Oh, I did.
I got it.
I gotta go upstairs and look at college.
Oh, we're standing here thanking each other and telling each other we'll take care of it. That's hilarious.
He loved it.
Did he?
He loved it. Yeah, he's supposed to send me the picture, but I'll text him in a little bit. Yeah, he loved it though. I think what he really liked about it, because it was all personal and all that. It wasn't something we
They're going, give it to him, yeah.
Yeah, their strategic plan of Bastrop did not have the fire department in it at all. The fire chief said he caught it before it was submitted. I was like, what are they here? What's going on? That chief's got his hands full, man.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just went through the hiring process.
They're trying to convert.
Trying to convert from volunteer to pay. They already have part-timers,
Yeah.
but he's trying to go full-time. I think he's hiring 6.
And you gotta look at all the growing pains that Katie had and all the growing pains that 48's had.
Yes, because they got 2 stations. I don't know if they're doing 3 a day or 2 a day with 1 person off. But yeah, I mean, they're active, chief and assistant
They're
chief.
hiring 6
I think
for
they're-
2
I
stations.
think he said 6. Maybe not 6. Maybe they're hiring 6 and they're only staffing 1 station.
Oh, no.
They have 2. Maybe. I think they're hiring
one
1
person a day
I
for
think there's-
staffing. I guess 2 people a day
2
for
people a
staffing.
day for staffing. Yeah, because I know the station we went and looked at yesterday, they're building it out and putting sleeping quarters and all that in. Yeah, that ladder's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. But yeah, because after he gets through with this whole transition, in about 2-3 years, they're gonna look at EMS, getting into the EMS business.
Is that Travis County or Williamson?
It's Bastrop County.
Oh, Bastrop County.
Yeah. But
But
Arcadia.
they're right there. I mean, Travis County's right
Yeah,
there.
Arcadia runs for EMS. They have issues with Arcadia.
Oh, hell yeah.
Response time, things like that. So Paul wants them to get into
Because
EMS.
Arcadia's first priority is making money.
That's where your transfers come in.
Yeah.
Not 911 code.
Not 911.
Yeah. But yeah, they're getting in, they've never done inspections. So they're starting an inspection program. You get all these old buildings that have never been inspected. Yeah. So he's got the chief's been there 16 years, kind of worked his way through the ranks. And like Alvin and I said, because he's got volunteers that,
I'll go up with you.
yeah, he's got volunteers that are not going to make the cut to be hired. So now he's got to tell these volunteers, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You stay on as a volunteer, but you're not going to be part of the full-time staff. So it's good that it's established, but bad because he's got a lot of relationships where if you had somebody from the outside, no ties, no connections, it's not that bad. But, yeah, I mean, he's a young guy, the chief is, but not yesterday, the day before, they made a 4-acre grass fire, burned the 2 houses and 5 cars. Not in Bastrop, in a neighboring
Yeah.
community, but yeah, it's just crazy. But they have, I mean, no station
But
wagon.
with Austin falling apart, everybody's moving out, they're still gonna commute into Austin. They just don't wanna live there anymore.
And all the downtown district, I mean, Paul and Bart bought a house on the in Bastrop, but on the far outer edge. Because, I mean, everything downtown is outrageous.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
It's cause it's a bedroom of Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than going in and trying to buy something in Sugar Land.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
It was funny because I took a picture of the sill, I took a picture of that fire truck. When I sent it to you, I told it out, I said, let's see how quick Davis responds. He's like, right there, Johnny, like I told you. But yeah, he did, he asked about you, how you were doing and all that. He gave us a tour of Bastrop and introduced us to several individuals up there. And, oh my God, he drives wild. He almost got into a head on because he's sightseeing, showing us the new house.
Drives like
He
that.
turns the corner, he's like, yeah, the Colorado River's over here, and as he's turning, there's a truck coming right at us, like, swerving, sorry guys, because I was sightseeing. He's doing good though, we met the county judge. The county judge has got people to convince him, they've got a Confederate monument that it's on a county courthouse to remove it. So the county judge is trying to talk Paul for the city of Bastrop to take the monument in one of the parks. And Paul's like, if you're offended by it, what makes you think I want to take on this project that people get on, you know? But yeah, it was pretty cool. A little visit. We got there about, I don't know, 10:30, 10:45, and we left about 2. Yeah. He's doing good though. He's doing good. He's happy. He said about 5 years and he's done.
Gonna hang it up. Huh?
Yeah. Yep. But it's just, he said their water treatment plant's at 85% capacity right now. And with the development and all that's going on, he said we don't have the capacity to supply.
Here to go to second.
Bastrop. Yeah, he said they're looking at trying to get money to, build a
It'd
new
be
one.
cheaper to build a second than it would be to modify.
Yeah. And then they got a bridge that goes over, I think, it goes over the Colorado. It's one of those historical bridges.
Mm-hmm.
But TxDOT and City of Bastrop deemed it unsafe. But it's $12 million to renovate it or whatever, or tear it down.
Was cost to rebuild it completely.
So they're gonna find the money for $12 million to renovate it or whatever to keep it as a historical.
Yeah, but I think on something like that, you can get the state involved.
Yeah, they're gonna get the state
It's a true historical
and all that
monument,
stuff.
and there's grants out there
Yeah,
that they can go
That's
for.
what he was saying, they're gonna find some grants. But he said, Paul, because he drove around, showed us a couple council members' houses and businesses, and he's like, yeah, this council member here, he's got a UT flag hanging out front. He goes, yeah, one of my council members lives here with his husband. It's like, he goes, but that's okay though. It's like, keep Austin weird. He goes, yep, keep Austin weird.
Whatever this moon cycle that we're in for 2020,
It's
it's
crazy.
fucking go away.
Because last night I was watching the sun set, and not only was I watching the sun set, but I was watching the moon set too.
Yeah.
Because over, where the sun was setting, it was orange and yellow and the light blue and the dark blue, and then you had the nighttime, and you had a small crescent moon over here. And then a couple hours later, it was gone. I'm
Yeah.
like, holy crap.
At the house, the way my house sits, the sun sets, comes up, so it'll be dark back here with the moon, but the sun is still up over here, and you'll watch the transition as it goes.
Transition, yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
pretty
neat.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a horrible overdose if they're going on.
Who?
how long ago she took it, there's nothing they can do besides watch her down. She took a bottle of Tylenol.
Yeah. Worst case scenario there, she fucked her liver up.
When I worked at the hospital in Victoria,
There's nothing,
one of the
there's
X-ray
nothing to
techs,
do
she
for her.
took a bottle of Tylenol, didn't tell anybody, and her sister found her. There wasn't a damn thing we could do besides just sit there and watch her die.
That's it. Unless they have a liver that matches her in a closet somewhere that they can get in the surgery.
I've got one of those somewhere. Shit, where did I put that
Is that
thing?
an organization? Who worked?
Huh?
Y'all worked yesterday, right?
Yes, sir.
15th? Did y'all have a Cub Scout, Boy Scout deal on the 15th at 1:30? And never showed up?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, good.
Volunteers did their little thing last night just to go over the new packs that Rick created to put in that car,
Where's the car at now?
sitting in the bay,
Where's the 42, 41 at?
sitting on the other bay.
How do we get running?
33's gone. You know, there's this thing called if you come to work.
Come to work.
So let me give you the latest update of what he wants to pursue, Lars that is, which is I've been wanting to do this for even back when Daryl was here. But we're not gonna pursue this till probably the budget of 22.
It's next budget.
No, this is 22, 23. This
Okay.
is 21, 22. Because he wants to get the blood program up and running and going. And it may be sooner than that, it all depends on him and how people are doing with this. And I've been pushing for this ultrasound.
I know Daryl talked about that for a while.
Yeah, I've been I've been pushing for it, but there was no training for it for EMS. There wasn't any at that point. He says that Herman's putting together a class to teach.
It's not that expensive, right?
It
Little
depends.
handheld.
It depends on what you want. You know what brand.
Right.
You know, you have the handheld one that you have the screen that you can do, or you have the wand and you can do. You know, just depends.
Slap some gel on it.
Yeah, which initially for EMS ultrasound was basically used to confirm
Bleed, interior bleed.
field terminations, making sure that the heart was
Oh,
not,
okay.
you know, they would confirm that it was an assisted period, there was nothing going on.
Gotcha.
But as it goes, Herman's putting that class together to teach you
Okay.
how to do this. And I was telling us that we would, you know, we would probably put 2 per shift through the training when it came across.
That's what he wanted.
But it'll be, this is a year or so, a year and a half down the road, you know,
Short term or intermediate term?
intermediate.
Use correct terms.
Since we're talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's an intermediate goal. I mean, it's, you're looking at 1 to 2 years, or,
Yeah.
or almost 3 to get it off the ground.
HGAC's coming Thursday, Davis, to shoot a video at 9 o'clock
Well, let's hope we can keep the ambulance in service.
on Medic 42.
I'm trying not to wreck it.
Please don't.
So let me tell you what they said over there. They couldn't find anything wrong. What they found was they're thinking that some of the wiring, because of the generator, kind of like the Knox box issue where you have to put it in its own circuit so it doesn't get scrambled. He's thinking that the wiring for the whatever's going on with the high pressure fuel, it's being interfered by the generator. So they kind of moved wires around and it resolved the issue. But he says if it comes back, then we're really gonna have to dig down deep into and find out what's going on. no charge, but
Yeah, well, I would hope not, it's a warranty.
There's one random AirPod in the bathroom.
yeah, somebody was, my daughter told me about that. She says there's an AirPod in there. I don't know who's it belong to.
It still has earwax on it, so you could probably trace it back. I did. I'll see if I could taste to see who it was. It didn't work.
The only problem is then you gotta lick every person's ear.
Some people might like that.
And I thought mine was bad enough, you took it a step further.
All right, so Brandon's following up with the city attorney on those contracts.
Okay, cool.
So I should have an answer today. And if I can sign them, then I'll sign them.
I know Daryl used to sign most of them that weren't.
I signed them when Paul was here. Paul had to sign them all. And that's what I've been told. The city manager's got to sign contracts. I'll send them to him, and then if he tells me I can sign them, then I'll push them back.
Okay.
All right, learning objective number 4. Describe the training program, development, and evaluation. Training program design is the training manager roles and responsibilities. Developing training policies, records, and standards. Determine the training needs. Recruiting and selecting instructors. Scheduling training programs. Evaluating training programs and instructors, and providing budget and resource management. From the program design, critical step toward program success. Contributes to the program's effectiveness or contributes to the program's failure to meet organizational needs. You've got a plan when it comes to doing your program. You've got to make sure that your timing is right. You know, it's not just something that you're trying to put together and throw out and implement relatively quickly just to have. But you've got to make sure that your design phase is one of your key components to whether the program's effective or it ends up being a failure. When it comes to identifying the program's purpose, you want to ensure that all personnel are trained. Ensure that the competency is maintained to effectively, efficiently, safely execute all responsibilities. Good example of this, in my opinion, is our FTEP program. You know, we sent, 11, 13, something like that to the training. And then y'all got together and built out the program and designed it for our department. And now we're in the implementation phase with the evaluation phase in it. Which I don't know will be coming close to the end with Kano, huh?
Yeah.
As far as
Next week.
January-ish.
January should be.
Oh wait, what are you talking? What'd you?
As far as 9 to 7?
Yeah, next weekend. Saturday's the last day.
Saturday's the last day.
So
Give Albert a reason to take off.
he's already off. You're already off on Saturday.
I'm off on Saturday, then I'm off the following Saturday.
And you talk about me.
Yeah, but I'm off on the weekends.
Training program.
I don't take unnecessary trips
It
on
was,
a weekday, on a Monday.
it was necessary. Training program goals: develop and maintain skills personnel need to perform the specific jobs. Instill organizational value and culture in every member. Ensure the program meets requirements of local, state, and provincial. I hate that word. And federal agencies, you know what I'm talking about. Provide quality programs that challenge personnel and provide opportunities for professional growth and prepare personnel for future responsibilities. So with any type of program that we do, we've got to make sure that it is something that is going to have a benefit, not just a real short benefit for our staff, but long-term benefits as well. Something they can take with them, something they can rely on throughout their job, something that they can grow with and expand on moving forward. You want to make sure that the organization and personnel training needs provides adequate, appropriate training for the needs of each section or division. Include support resources, scheduled around work schedules so all personnel may attend, and method or policy to identify critical training needs. So you're looking at everything again from a complete 360, looking at it from every angle when it comes to putting together the training for the department, getting feedback from everybody in the department, the staff, brainstorming as far as what classes people would like to see or want to do, what's new classes that are coming out. Provide a clear line of authority and accountability for achieving the goals. NFPA 1201 requires the appointment of a training officer. Training officers should be familiar with NFPA 1041, and the training program may have staff who report to the training manager or one person may perform all tasks. Being a small department, y'all know we have a training officer, then from there, like right now, Davis has individuals that help him out, whether it's inputting training, whether it's putting together training from different angles. Some departments have a complete different, have a training division, and that's all they do, is set up the training for the department, go out, teach classes, as they move forward. When it comes to program evaluation, you've got to evaluate the training manager, the overall program, the instructors. When you're having these classes, are the instructors, are they doing the job that needs to be done? Are they providing the essential information and teaching the correct information as they go on? Who's a better, I'll say better instructor, who's more versed in that subject compared to the other? If you've got the opportunity to plug in some of your more versed instructors for this class versus that class, you can utilize it that way. Evaluated by the instructors, the courses, the learners, the individuals, the type of participation that the students have with the course, the type of interest involved in the course. We put out all kinds of courses all day long, but if you don't have people interested in taking it, it really doesn't go anywhere. So looking at everything from all, so you got to ask yourself, what elements must be evaluated? The course curriculum's got to be evaluated, the level of instruction, the skills, the feedback, how it's presented, whether we're doing it in person, whether we're doing it virtual, whether we're doing it, hands-on, 1 hour, 2 hours, off duty, on duty. You got to look at all of that. That encompasses the elements to be evaluated. Who collects the needed data? Who's gathering that data? You can collect it, you can evaluate it, but then where does it go from there? Who analyzes that data and formulates recommendations for changes, and how are recommendations implemented? That's all part of the program design. So failure to plan is going to mean you're going to have an increased cost in your training, because you're going to end up spending more on training classes or on prompts. Bless you. Bless you. Still not COVID?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't really know what sinuses and COVID anymore.
It went from not COVID to I don't think so. Doug, don't turn around. Just stay right like you are.
That time of year.
I know, right?
Never know if it's
But
sinuses or the flu.
increased cost, again, not looking at everything. When it comes to live fire training, in reality, if we just stuck with Houston just because it's what we've been doing for all these years, we'd be spending $20,000 on live fire training. But because of the research and all that's being done, looking at new facilities, new departments of building, new things, because of all of that, we're able to save tremendously in our live fire training, but still have good live fire training being provided to us. Failure to plan will also link to failure to meet the learning objectives. If you don't plan accordingly, you don't lay out the right timeline, the time schedule, right curriculum, you're not going to be able to meet the objectives of what you're trying to accomplish with that course. And then you're going to have program delays. So some program tips, focus on the needs of the customers. Looking at what is the need of the department? What classes do we have coming up, or could we have coming up based upon the need? Do we have, individuals that really need Fire Officer 1? So do we need to do a Fire Officer 1 class? Do we have individuals that need, is there a big interest now in Fire Officer 3 and 4? Do we need to do another one? Or what are some specialty ones? What are our needs that is out there? Design a program so it's visible within the organization. Where people are aware of what we're doing. People are aware of the different training that's being made readily available. What they have to look forward to when they get to that certain point in their career. Clearly establish and communicate accountability for achieving the goals. Setting that out at the very beginning of the program, and then make sure they're delivering the quality training. As these classes are being presented, when you're filling out the evaluation, the only way to make any type of course, any type of program better is to be honest on the evaluation. And we all know we're in the fire service, we've probably all done it, we get an evaluation, we're ready to get out of there, we do nothing but 4s and 5s, everything great, turn it in and we're done, just to get out. But in reality, when we do that, are we really providing the feedback that needs to be provided to make that course better? Or maybe there was something that the instructor did, it was a great instructor, but maybe they needed to tweak something to make their instructional or their presentation better. So be honest when it comes to your evaluation and your feedback to help improve the delivery of the quality of the training that you're paying for or that you're attending. When it comes to course selection, you want to prioritize your training topics. What topics are required for personnel to achieve the organization's mission and program goals? What topics are required for personnel to perform jobs effectively and safely? What topics do the laws and standards mandate? Again, internal customers perceive as most important or are the priorities of the organization's administration. These are all considerations when it comes to putting together a training program. When it comes to your course selections throughout the year. When it comes to development of your strategic plan, getting your staff and your personnel ready for succession planning as you move along. Every organization has different needs that require different priorities and goals. Our needs and our goals and our department is going to be different than what WestU has. Their needs and goals are going to be different than the city of Houston. Granted, we have a lot of commonalities, but at the same time, it's the needs of our organization. Topics are developed in the training courses. The training officer may be responsible for developing curriculum or professionally developed curriculum is available. So either you're creating the curriculum yourself, building it from the ground up, putting everything together, or you can go out and purchase it from ISTA, Delmar, Jones and Bartlett, using what they have. And the nice thing about that curriculum is you can take what they have and you can modify it, you can tweak it, you can add to, you can delete, things of that nature. So it's all customizable. When it comes to the different training facility types, you have permanent facilities like our training tower. That's a permanent facility. It's not going anywhere. It's there. You can do a vast, different variety of things down there, from FTC connection to sprinklers to hose loads. You can do rappelling. You can do all kinds of them. But that is a permanent facility. Mobile facilities is like the Teach driving truck trailer that they have. That would be a mobile training facility. They bring it to wherever the training class is, and you do that training inside that trailer. And then acquired structures is like what we get from homes from time to time. We get a home to go cut up and go have a little fun. So those are different things. Back in the days with the acquired structures, you could strip it all out where it was straight up wood and you could actually burn it. And now with EPA and things of that nature, they kind of frown upon that. But knowing NFPA 1402 and 1403 detailed requirements for training structures, as well as far as the different ones. Permanent facilities could be, a training room with obviously monitors where you can do different things, or a smokehouse that, it's not going anywhere. It's stationary. It's right where it's at. Personnel training structures do not replace certified skilled training personnel. Effective instructors can teach, lead, motivate, inspire, and change attitudes of an organization. Again, when you're out training, when you're out with your shift, with your crew, and you're going through the evolution, you want to make sure you explain your entire, your goals, your objectives, what you want to accomplish. What role everybody's playing. If TJ is going to be the firefighter on this evolution and Doug's going to be the right lieutenant, that all needs to be explained ahead of time so everybody knows what position and what role they have. As an instructor, it's not about pointing out what, it's COVID all around.
Everywhere.
As an instructor, remember, it's not all about pointing out the negativity. It's about teaching. It's about, there's going to be things that you do good. There's going to be things that you can do better. And the things that you can do better, you're going to do it in the right manner when it comes to your approach, and a constructive manner to help individuals learn. As a chief officer, you want to ensure that the staff is capable of providing required level of instruction. You want to select the competent instructors and determine instructors' roles and qualification. And more importantly is, as a chief officer, you want to make sure you allow your instructor or the instructor time to prepare. You don't want to just say, hey, you're Doug, your teacher in class today at 9 o'clock this morning, and he just got to work at 7. Granted, Doug may do a great job on the fly, but if you allowed him more time, you gave him a little bit notification, he can do a better job than just on the fly. We'd have time to prepare, time to put things together, time to review PowerPoint presentation or modify it and customize it. From an instructor standpoint, it's critical to the program planning. Intermediaries between the administration and the personnel being trained apply their knowledge, skills, and experiences. Tend to specialize in certain topics. There's individuals here that are, that are better at teaching fire classes than they are EMS classes, and individuals that are better at teaching EMS classes than they are fire classes. So utilize your staff, utilize your personnel, and get them, draw the best out in them when it comes to teaching. You know what they're capable of, you know what their strengths are, you know what their weaknesses are, and if you don't, you should. So when it comes to assigning instructors for the training that's being assigned, you can choose the right individuals for that. Must have credibility with personnel being trained and must be qualified. You know, if people don't have credibility when they're teaching a class, most likely the students in that class are just going to be somewhere else. They're not going to be focused. They're not going to be paying attention to what is being taught. They're just going to be there because it's like they just have to be there. When it comes to scheduling training, as a chief officer, schedules programs or courses, provide schedules that enable supervisors to assign personnel with minimal effect on duty. Schedules allow volunteers to integrate training with the regular employment and personal activities. Post schedules with training topics, dates, times, and locations, and notify potential instructors. So putting out the schedule is important. Get it out early, get it out as soon as you possibly can, but make sure you cover all means of notification as well. You know, not only just, you know, in an email, but we got calendar invites. We can put something, bump the calendar upstairs. We got the flip calendar. There's so many different ways we can notify individuals of upcoming training. You know, again, notifying the instructors, giving them ample amount of time to be able to study and prepare. You know, if we have required training, mandated training, making sure people have enough time, enough notice, so that way if it's on one of their days off, they can make the necessary arrangements, you know, because they may have childcare issues, they may have other things that they were scheduled to do, so they have time to get that covered or rearranged in that area. So factors affect the training schedule. How will the training schedule affect other job activities? You know, is it a staffing issue that we're looking at? Is it, you know, we're going to do a training class in here on a day off, but what? Okay, if A shift's got a PHTLS in here, did B shift have anything scheduled in here as well? So communicating in that aspect. When are resources most readily available? What is the best time for training? How quickly must training be completed? And how can technology-based training be used in place for traditional forms of training as well? And I think the whole COVID deal is kind of, yeah, it's been an inconvenience, but at the same time, it's really taught, I feel like it's taught a lot of people different ways of being more versed, not just with in-person, but with, you know, virtual training, virtual work, things of that nature. So it's allowed us as individuals to get creative and still be able to accomplish the goals and objectives that are out there, just in a different fashion. So when it comes to development, you know, develop consistent procedures for creating and publicizing the schedule. Assign one individual to create and keep records of the schedule, and schedule a reasonable amount of programs within a time period, a given time period. You know, make sure it's published, make sure it's, again, make sure it's out there and readily available. Schedule all resources in a timely manner. Confirm that resources are available. Don't wait until the week before if you've got a training with Houston that you plan to do to contact Houston and see if they're available, or to see what kind of ladder truck they have available to come, you know, because they have to make arrangements as well. You know, you've got to look to see if you're doing training, something like pump ops training during the week, what's the best location you can go to. Terminal area is good, but terminal may be pretty busy during the week, where weekends it's obviously a little bit more open. And you want to make sure you publish and distribute the schedules and then develop alternate plans. If PHTLS is a scheduled class, but something falls through with that, what's our backup? Do we go back to ITLS? Is there another class that's out there? External training sources. Contracts or partnership agreements can be used to establish relationships with outside sources. Colleges and universities. We can have a contract with a college and a university to be able to use their drill tower, use their live fire training facility if they have one. We can have a contract with them as far as any type of professional development courses we send staff to them to take. So not only are you getting the course, getting the TCFU certification, but at the same time, you're getting college credit as well. North American Fire Training Association is a group where you can have an agreement with regional programs. We're talking about that through like TDM, there's different regional programs. The state of Texas has some. Seminars, they're starting to kick back up. People are starting to have in-person seminars again, so that's a good thing. National courses, National Fire Protection, NFA courses are available, and then private training centers as well. Again, when it comes to evaluation, evaluate for relevance and effectiveness essential to success. Programs, goals, and objectives form the basis of the evaluation and includes determining the customer satisfaction levels. Be honest. You know, identical to the process for evaluating the organization. Program and course level evaluations often include instructor and student input, and it includes the input from incident commanders, supervisors, program managers who work with individuals who complete the program. Again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse on evaluation. We've talked about it in many chapters, but the best thing you can do is provide a truthful and honest feedback on the course. If the instructor reads the evaluation and they get offended, they get upset, well, then they're not open to constructive criticism, and it just means they're not going to grow and develop as an instructor, or the course is not going to change for the better in the future. Any questions on number 4? All right, moving along. Number 5, describe the process of community risk assessment. Identify what hazards we have out in the community compared to the risks that we could encounter. Looking at the different high-rises, looking at the different areas, what hazards do we encounter? You know, you're looking at parking garages, what hazards do we encounter, and to what level of risks are we willing to take to accomplish the common goal of the potential incident? And when it comes to all hazard risk analysis, we've got prevention to mitigation, preparedness response, continuity, continuity, that one too.
That's that Highlands education.
I'll be on the way. Good.
He hadn't passed this class yet.
Yeah.
And then it's the recovery. So this is the all hazard risk analysis. So to address the potential risk, you want to apply your risk management model. Determine the existing and potential hazards. Cataloging and inspecting private fire protection systems. Determine your available water source. Recognizing relevant types of building, I cannot talk today. Building construction, and evaluating existing and potential mutual aid agreements. So you go to a high-rise when you're doing your pre-plan. You get the information for your documentation for the department. And then you come back and you sit down at the table and you talk about it, or while you're there, you talk about it. You know, if we were to have a vehicle fire in this parking garage, what routes, what options do we have? What's our water source like? How do we get water to the 5th story of the parking garage compared to water to the 3rd story of the parking garage? Are we going to have to hump hose? And do we need to look at bringing a ladder truck for a water supply to the top of a parking garage? Things of that nature. You know, with every facility, you're trying to address all the potential risks available. From a comprehensive risk approach, formal identification and evaluation of the risk, compared to a risk management plan with services in place necessary to mitigate the risk, and then information used to develop a fire prevention and life safety program. There's things that you can identify that will lead to obviously different programs. As you go into pre-plans, what are some concerns? Okay, what's their evacuation routes? What's their evacuation plans look like? What do their fire warden program look like? Do they even have one? Are these programs that we can go out and start with community outreach and get into the high rises where if we have an incident here, instead of everybody coming out the north entrance, we want everybody to reroute to the south entrance because of how we're going to come in with our apparatus and how we have to necessarily set up and stage. All that information is used to develop different programs. Your different hazard categories range from behavioral to intentional to natural to occupancy related. So if you're behavioral hazards, stay alive, don't text and drive is a slogan that's out there. You know, it's a program that you're trying to encourage individuals in, you know, like within the department or whoever's affected by this program, you know, to remind them, hey, don't be texting and driving. You know, it's not, that text message can wait until you get somewhere and stop and respond. Results from perceived careless actions of individuals or groups. Some examples can be storing ignitable liquids improperly, smoking in bed, or driving under the influence. And these programs are really ongoing. You know, with the smoking in bed, that was became a big issue years ago, and there was a big campaign about that. And what did the cigarette manufacturers start doing because of the amount of fires that had started? They put where they go out.
Rings on there that slow the burning down, so it should put itself
out. So they kind of help. driving under the influence. I mean, that's an ongoing campaign. You know, heck, if you're drunk and you drive through Bel Air, they're going to arrest you 2 or 3 times a night. 302, he's like, got to be leading the number of DWI arrests. Who is that? 3?
I think it's SWAT.
SWAT.
Yeah.
He finds it, but it's just crazy that driving under the influence. But that's an ongoing campaign. It's almost like it's not slowing down; it's actually increasing more and more. You know, the smoke detector campaign that was one that was out. Collecting data on the hazards, reviewing response history, categorizing types of responses and causes. You know, reaching out to the local Red Cross or a safety council to get data from them, what they're seeing, what they're coming across. National Safety Organization. Wake up! I know you jumped. You know, looking at the National Safety Organizations to see what type of behavioral hazards they're coming across, what information they're receiving in the different medical professionals. What are they seeing? From intentional hazards, results from actions that are meant to cause property destruction and a life of loss. Reason can be revenge, could be anger, could be personal gain. Examples are vandalism, arson, active shooter or hostile event, or terrorism. Under intentional hazards, you get your investigation program. These can pinpoint the actual cause of the hazard. Can provide evidence for jurisdictional cases as well. Under the inspection and public education, they can help reduce the potential of an intentional hazard. Public may provide information that may prevent incidents. And then when it comes to data gathering, you want to review a previous investigation, understand the local society, and information about national trends. Looking at the data, reading about it, I mean, the nice thing is everybody works at a variety of different departments, so you can see what other departments are encountering, what they're seeing, what the talk is in the fire service. You know, just like doing fire inspections. You know, when you go out and do an inspection on a facility, you take the previous inspection and you review that report to see what violations they might have had a year ago or 2 years ago. So you're kind of aware of what to maybe look for whenever you're going out. But at the same time, gathering that data to see if, you know, the trends that others are seeing, are you encountering that as well? Natural hazards incidents that are generally out of the human control: tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, landslides, forest fires. Bottom line, 2020. I mean, it's been nothing but natural hazards all year long, and it doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. But we have no control. The plus is, and some of the aspect of it is, on the natural hazards, we do have a little bit of time to prepare for whatever we may encounter. I mean, tornadoes, you get a little bit of notification, a severe storm's coming. Hurricanes, you know, even if it forms in the Gulf, we have at least 12 hours, hopefully before landfall if something forms right off the coast, and so forth. So a lot of times we have a little bit of preparation time. You know, these may be regional or occur in unexpected areas. Human activities can exact severity of some natural events. Personnel may not be able to prevent effects, but they can reduce the consequences through zoning restrictions. You know, what our city's trying to do with the flood mitigation, looking at the different zoning areas. Are there areas that's currently restricted that they need to lighten up on to allow for improvement to the infrastructure? Public and fire life safety education or disaster response training. I mean, high water vehicle training and all that really didn't come to light until Harvey. When Harvey came and we saw the kickoff, we saw everybody going about high water vehicles because we got 40 inches of rain in a small, relative period of time. But, you know, you saw that became part of the disaster response training.
Wasn't it before Harvey actually? When did we
Yeah,
learn?
'cause we already-
I thought Harvey's when ours drowned.
Yeah.
Harvey was, but you didn't see a big kickoff from other departments. I don't think before until Harvey.
Departments
Getting high water vehicles, doing a lot of the training and all that stuff for swift water. A lot of departments don't have it, but it wasn't like a big push until after.
That's when PG got theirs after Harvey.
Yeah. Yeah, we had ours beforehand, but yeah, a lot of departments, because it wasn't until really after, at least in this area here.
are those now?
Yeah, antiques. Information sources, obviously for natural hazards, the National Weather Service, historical documentation, and local geographical and population spread data from the library and local government. The effect of natural disasters have on organization and infrastructure is often overlooked in the planning stage. It'll be interesting to see how 2020 affects planning for hurricanes in the future. You know, we're, halfway through the Greek alphabet by now?
And they still got that one.
And there's still a couple more areas. Yeah, Iota hit land
A Cat 5.
last night, but there's still a couple of areas that they're looking at, and there's still a possibility we could finish the Greek alphabet before the year's over.
It's something if we started the 2021 alphabet. Let's go. Let's
But
do it.
like watching the National Weather Channel this morning,
Do it.
what the Weather Channel, they're already looking at researching the climate effects for 2020 because every storm so far in the month of November has had every storm in the Greek alphabet, has been a rapid intensifying
It's
storm.
a gravitational pull in the moon cycle that we're in. I
So-
promise something.
But, so it's kind of interesting to watch the studies that are already being done. I'd be curious to see the rollover effect in 2021.
We actually had to fly around it when we were going over to Orlando, with the storm that came through by Florida there. And it was funny because my wife looked at me and goes, "When is hurricane season actually over?" I said, "This is 2020.
Yeah. It's supposed to be November 30th, but that may not even happen then either.
Biden will fix it all. Global warming and stuff.
So occupancy related hazards, obviously your building codes determine occupancy, use categories, organizations responsible for ensuring the owner and occupant adheres to the building codes. Remember, as an inspector, when you're out doing inspections or even doing pre-plans, you know, it's your job to make sure you're educating the occupant and the owner. A lot of times they don't know or they play the I don't know card, whichever one. But either way, as an inspector, as a member of the fire service, knowing the building codes, you know, get out there and really educate them on what, you know, what they need to do. Understand the building fire codes and locally adopted amendments. Survey all structures and list types of occupancies and hazards that they create. So having a good understanding on the residential side, having a good understanding on the commercial side will give you a better understanding of how buildings are designed, the effects during the design phase, the building phase, and then when you come across something, why it's a hazard. Fire, number one thing in the city is either extension cords or storage, is what are two most common violations. When it comes to single family dwellings that may be exempt from inspection requirements, we don't go out and do inspections on residential. We used to do certificate of occupancies anytime they sold, or renters, things like that, which was, to me, I thought was a very good program from our standpoint because it gave us an opportunity to be able to go into these homes and really see what they look like from the interior side in a non-emergency setting, to kind of give you an idea. May be included in programs that can reduce loss, can be inspected on military installations. Your voluntary inspection program can be a public education opportunity and physical surveys of residential neighborhoods, and your response areas can help determine risks. You know, we still do our fire safety checks on homes, but it's probably a campaign that we really haven't publicized. It would probably may not hurt to try to rejuvenate that and get that pushed out and see what we get. I mean, it's a voluntary program, but again, it gives you an opportunity to meet the public, to come and identify hazards to help them out, to help keep their home safe, but gives you an opportunity to see the home all the way around. And then, you know, from a survey of a residential neighborhood in the response area, you know, we don't really see it too much here, but, you know, in other areas where they have development, they have new homes going up, you know, what's the water supply look like? How many hydrants are they going to have compared to how many homes are they expecting? What's the number of increase in citizens that it's bringing? What do the roads look like? You know, are you going to be able to stage apparatus? Are you going to be able to stage, you know, a ladder truck if needed in the development phase? So these are things that you can help the developer on through developing and determining the risk ahead of time. At the same time, you have your high value and high priority exposures. High value structures provide high financial value or risk of high loss, or life of loss. And your high priority structure is basic infrastructure come in. If that system was to go down, that affects a whole lot of people. And there's a whole lot of dollars that would be lost, and at the same time, it could cost a whole lot more to replace and fix and get brought back up to standards. But then at the same time, your whole entire basic infrastructure, if that's the main hub and that catches on fire, gets destroyed because of a storm, then it may take a lot longer to restore power in that area to supply the needs for the community. So when it comes to creating a community risk reduction program, you want to analyze your community risk assessment, acquire and prioritize your resources, and write your policies and procedures. You want to train your personnel, monitor your program, and make adjustments as necessary. And again, it's pretty much a lot of the same steps that we talked about with any type of program that we're establishing. Any questions over Objective 6? All right. Objective Objective 5. Objective 6, describe the comprehensive plan for disasters and hostile events. When it comes to a disaster plan, legally mandated is most incorporated North American communities. We have to have some type of disaster plan. This is also known as an all hazards plan. From a fire and emergency service response plan, it's just one element of the community disaster plan. As a chief's role, it's critical to success of local emergency operations and essential to communities of all sizes. We used to write our own all hazards plan for the city. We would have to write it with the different annexes to try to cover everything. I don't know how far back, it's been probably close to maybe 7 to 10 years. The county developed a plan, and now we partner with them and we help develop that plan, and then we are incorporating the county's all hazards plan. We just went through the all hazards plan with Harris County. It was about a year process to rewrite, and it's one that is, I think, rewritten every 5 years. But that's been approved, council approved it, so we're part of Harris County's plan. But yeah, Fire and Emergency Services has a specific annex in that. And in that all hazards plan, we identify the threats of our community, the risks that we encounter here in our jurisdiction.
So on the Harris County all hazard plan, is it broken down by jurisdiction? Or is it just one big?
It's one plan, but it is broken down by jurisdictions. I want to say there was like,
so we could say like a Southwest Houston plan or
yeah, because
Southwest Harris County.
Cause there was 9. I want to say there was 9 stakeholders that helped write this, but I want to say there was like 17 communities that were part of this plan in the development. But yeah, you go look at the plan, and it actually has each jurisdiction in that. Planning should take all hazards approach to many different threats, from fires to EMS, hazardous materials, active shooter, hostile events, terrorism, and other emergency situations. So chief officers plus the representative of other jurisdictional organizations, plus representatives of other levels of government, plus your community representatives equal your community plan and your fire and emergency service organization response plan. So when we developed the all hazard plan with Harris County, it was representatives of the jurisdictions in Harris County, representatives of Harris County OEM, representatives of the state that were all partnered in, and it was a third party that coordinated this whole entire rewrite. It was Tetra Tech is who was the coordinating that put it all together. And there was like a timeline. We had to submit documentation, questionnaires, information on our jurisdiction, and get it all submitted, and they just put everything together. Because there was a deadline, we had to have it approved, and then from there it goes to the state to be tied into the state's plan. From a community disaster plan, you should meet service area needs and expectations. You should explain how to prevent disasters. List your resources that might be needed. Explain how to restore affected area in a minimum amount of time. Establishing protocol for coordinating activities of all emergency responders and be simple but yet flexible. Not only do we identify the hazards, but we identify things that didn't affect us. Like there was one that was like natural vegetation. We don't have marshlands or anything like that in our community. There was one an area we didn't have to worry about. But it allowed us to really go in and see and kind of prioritize and rank everything based on priority. And then from there, we were able to see, okay, we have wildland's not anything really big for us compared to other parts of Harris County. But yet, other jurisdictions, areas were a higher priority in comparison. But we could actually see and really get to discuss what other communities, what other jurisdictions are doing to help mitigate and prevent those type of emergencies. And if we ever had a marshland put in or whatever, we can go back to the all hazards plan and see what jurisdictions that already have plans and you can get their information. I may want to take Southdale because it already stinks as it is. Wipe out homes and turn it into a marshland for retention. Who knows? But you got to be simple but yet flexible. The other thing too is not only do we have a plan, but like our different businesses, some of them submit plans. The Gardens of Bel Air, they're required to submit an emergency operations plan on an annual basis as being one location that comes to mind. But when you have no plan can address all possible situations. It don't matter how long we sit here, it don't matter how long you research, we're not going to cover everything. We're going to have a good idea, good general consensus of it all. We're going to think we have a good plan, and then when it comes to implement, we're going to learn something new. The plan needs to be generic enough so it can be modified to meet as many potential threats as possible. I mean, I think the whole pandemic is a good example of, you can plan for so much, go off of experience when it came to H1N1, things of that nature, getting yourself ready to go, but then you get a curveball of the COVID-19, and now we're having to adopt, modify the plans moving forward. And hopefully we'll be over sometime soon. Chief officers and emergency managers must recognize the types of disasters or hazards likely to occur in the area. You got to understand the importance of interagency relations, determine your jurisdictional authority, plan your resource allocation, and understand instant prevention measures. When you look at disasters, types of disasters in our area, one of the most common ones that you hear talked about is flooding. Flooding's been one that's, again, something that's been addressed. Braised Bio is a great project. I've already seen a lot of positives from it with the last storm that we had that brought us a significant amount of rain. It drained off relatively quickly. But the city's not stopping there when it comes to flooding. They're working on the infrastructure. They're working with TxDOT to try to improve the drainage under the city along 610 and all that, so that way these outlets can continue to flow and get the water moved out of here as quickly as possible. But we've got to understand the importance of interagency relations. Not only relations we have in Bel Air, but what are our relations with West U? What are our relations with Harris County OEM? Knowing that during, was it Laura? I don't know, one of the storms, we were the only EOC that was at a level 1. Everybody else was at a level 2 or level 3. And it kind of brought me up to a question, why are we at a level 1, but everybody else is at a level 2 or level 3? Well, your levels are based upon your jurisdictional activation. What resources we have, how far out do we activate? But knowing that we can just have an emergency here, and who all do we need to call in Harris County to get additional support that we need? Again, the jurisdictional authority, if we have something on the tracks, again, who's got the authority, where the lines cross, how your resources are coming, what resources you need, where you're going to stage your resources at, and then obviously understanding your incident prevention measures as well. Consider many different threats and hazards and the likelihood that they will occur. Active shooter is one that hit hard, train, and then I guess probably because of COVID, it's kind of got pushed to the back or whatever. But you have Santa Fe, you had the other ones throughout the state of Texas, throughout the United States. And it's like we can train, we can plan, we can prep all day long, but it's like it'll never happen here, and then bam, the Bel Air High. Even though it was an isolated incident, it still very easily had the possibility and the capability of being more than what it was. The strategy for prevention, deterrence, and risk mitigation should be developed. Thinking of everything from a complete perspective, looking at all different angles, 360 degrees all the way around. The hazards identified by physical and geographical characteristics. You know, looking at, okay, if we had, I mean, when we have flooding here, what's one of our biggest issues when it comes to traveling from one side of the city to the next? The 610 area floods quite a bit. Fortis, Bissonnette, Bel Air, you get flooding relatively quickly in those areas. So sometimes it makes travel from this side to inside the loop an issue. So what are some things that we can potentially do to help offset that if it's available and we can't get to that side? Airboat? Westview?
Resources to cover the other side.
Yeah, we can get Westview to help us out if they're responding outside their district. You know, Houston, different things. I mean, you see, think outside the box when it comes to your resources. Think outside the box when it comes to the hazards when we're looking and identifying, you know, the different characteristics. We know South Niagara is an area that really floods quite a bit. You know, the vulnerability should be assessed with the demographics. You know, the potential impacts should be analyzed to include contractual or mutual aid agreements. You know, making sure that we have those agreements. Not that if you don't have an agreement, if you call a resource, they're not going to come. But if you have a contract in place, if you have an agreement in place, it makes things a whole lot easier to get that resource, especially if it comes to who's paying for it, who's going to spend the money and things of that aspect of it. You know, having mutual aid agreements, all that can be agreed upon and lined up. It's just like our fuel. We have a contract with our fuel every year for hurricane season. We go with Apache. All Buster's got to do is pick up the phone, make a phone call. He has tanks here, fuel here, and we're ready to go for the duration of the incident. So risk assessment identification. From there, you know, you're looking at your threats and hazards. You're looking at the opportunities for the hazards, prevention, deterrence, and the risk mitigation. And then scenarios to consider for emergency planning. This is all part of the disaster plan that you've got to look at. You've got to identify your risk to be able to identify the rest. So when it comes to disasters, any occurrences that inflict widespread destruction or distress, it affects humans, animals, properties, economy, and the environment. I mean, you know, storms, pandemic, things of that nature. That's going to affect everything. It's going to cause widespread destruction, distress, impacting our lives. You know, predictable or instantaneous. You know, there's things that are going to be predicted. Now we know that, you know, like with hurricane season, the meteorologists have had a big challenge on their hand because their predictions have changed on a daily basis. The routes, the cones, it's been all over the place this year. The modeling that they do, you know, so some things are predictable, but at the same time, some things just develop and happen instantaneously. Sometimes you have short-term results because of the disasters, and then there's long-term results as well. You know, like Hurricane Harvey, there's still people that are being affected by Harvey, you know, as far as rebuilding and things like that. Disaster types, you have natural, human-caused, or technological disasters. Natural disasters are going to be all regions of the world are subject to disasters. There's not one area of the world that's exempt from any type of disaster. But we can see, looking at the different disasters, what different portions of the world of our country experience. I mean, the whole western part of the United States is burning up from wildland fires. They encounter earthquakes, but yet we don't have the frequency of earthquakes down here like they do there. But we get hurricanes here where they don't have the frequency of hurricanes over there. Or typhoons on the other side of the world. Some areas are more prone to specific types. And that just comes from you know, research. It comes from data to determine the different types of natural disasters in which some areas are more prone to. Like the wildland, they know when it's going to be a bad day based upon the humidity level, based upon the amount of rain that they've received. If today is going to be a potential high risk factor day for chance of a wildland compared to other months where it may not be so bad. Actually, you know, like the wildland, they have the fire wildland seasons. is what they call it. So when it comes to preparation, prevention methods, land use controls, early warning systems, pre-incident planning, multi-agency response plans, and contingency plans. It's once you've identified your risk, once you've identified your threats, once you've identified a lot of this, then you can go in and start identifying, how you're going to use the land use controls. How you're going to notify the public. How you're going to, what kind of pre-incident planning do you need to do? Who else do we need to bring in? Text dot. Is there other Coast Guard? Do we need to have plans with them? Do we need to have, response plans with TDM, which we do, response plans with the state, with the government. And then what's our contingency plan? What if plan A fails and doesn't come through? What's our backup? When it comes to human caused disasters, you have some that are intentional and you have some that are accidental. Human caused disasters are arson, human error, terrorism or war, active shooter, civil disorder, or political instability. Under arson, usually small-scale events, but can escalate into disasters. Cause could be greed, revenge, crime concealment, desire for attention. Preparation and prevention methods could be developing a fire prevention and cause determination program to reduce the likelihood of an arson-caused disasters. Developing pre-incident response plans based on potential arson targets. If you get information of an area that could be, maybe something's going on and because of all the civil disorder, maybe they're targeting certain areas, and they're like, wait a minute, we have that in our community. So what can we do? We go out there and pre-incident plan it. We can kind of draw it up a little bit and identify and have it ready to go. The human error occur because of human action or inaction. Not premeditated. Again, some prevention methods can be recognizing the human error is difficult to prepare for or eliminate. Be aware of potential and prepare for the possibility. So we can assess the fires we have in our city. We can assess the causes behind it, because part of INFRS ask, is there human error? Is there human contributions and what they were? And if we see a trend or multiple, we can develop a program to help educate, get out. Like, the smoke detector program is one that you find some areas of your community that don't have smoke detectors or they're not tested. And, because of that, you had a fatality in your district. So you start a campaign to help educate the public. You go out and test them and install them. If you see that you've got a big rash of people smoking in bed, fire starting to do a campaign and that aspect as well. Human caused terrorism or war, unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, and a segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objectives. So that was Oklahoma City. The bombing there. And then also you get your 9/11 attacks as well. Planning typically focuses on types of weapons attackers may use. So some prevention or preparation methods can be prepared for threats through awareness, training, and equipping. Planning and equipping. Gathering information from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and gathering available resources to assist in training and equipping personnel and organizations. Seeing what information is being provided. DHS gets intelligence information all the time. Provides that information, you read through it, see what the threat is, see what they're looking at, what they're focused on, and see how we can potentially eliminate or be ready and intervene if and when something was to occur. Active shooter, with the active shooter situation going on in the United States, they developed an FPA 3000. This describes the incident response, establishes preparedness, response, and recovery policies and procedures, and focuses on integrated contractual and mutual aid agreements and responder safety. We saw from Santa Fe how crazy and chaotic it was. Between law enforcement and fire and EMS, how crazy, the response was. Fire and EMS responded, they set up a triage, they went through the process, they got the victims out, but then they ran into, because law enforcement were doing a lot of self-dispatching and basically turned Highway 3 into a parking lot, it created some issues as far as getting out, transporting the patients. So with NFPA 3000, it kind of brings fire and law enforcement together on an active shooter response. But it's all well and good, it's all good to be trained, but if you don't follow through, you don't implement it, it doesn't do any good. So again, some prevention methods, provides guidance for major incident plans, incident management systems, and communication. Community risk assessment characterizes likelihood and impact associated with demographics, public and private property, and environmental features and conditions. I mean, we've kind of started with, okay, if we had a shooting at Bel Air High, what would our staging area be? Where would it be our lane of flow of traffic for EMS units coming in, getting patients and going out? Where can we set up a command post? But we need to make sure we're doing that strategic planning, not just for Bel Air High, but do it for the high rises. Do it for the Mulberry Church. Do it for different areas. So that way we have the good thing is being small, there could be a lot of common staging areas. We could say Connie could be a good staging area for things in this quadrant. Pick another staging area for the northwest quadrant of Bel Air, the northeast quadrant. Again, flow of traffic. How are you bringing everybody in? How are we communicating with PD? Who's the point of contact? Who's going to be the incident commander? Make sure that we're on the same page and we're not operating for two different types of operations. What type of notification are we going to have to do to the public? What type of risks are associated with the community if we're going to have an active shooter at one of the high rises or at Bel Air High? How do we get the information out? Civil disorder can result from protests or riots turning violent or destructive. Usually occurs as a response to perceived injustices or governmental decisions and may result in arson, property damage, injuries, and fatalities. I mean, this is 2020, y'all. We're facing this right now. We're seeing what other communities are going through, and hopefully we're learning. Have we sat down and put together a plan? No. Have we had a potential situation? Yeah. We've planned for it. We discussed it. We implemented it, and it went smooth. But have we had something like that? PD gets that type of information a lot more than what we do, but they do incorporate us to the best of our ability. The best thing that I think that we've had is having our SRT team. Y'all get that information, and y'all can relay that information over if it doesn't come directly across. So some methods on that: focusing on preparedness plan, on awareness of potential and ability to respond to any type of incident. Preparing your fire and EMS organization to be targets of disorder, and developing policies for responding before the events occur. Thinking about the situation, looking at what other departments are doing, seeing how other departments and agencies are actually handling that. We saw a lot of law enforcement abandon their police station because their station was a target, because of the hazard, the threats, and all that. So we've got to plan for that. We've got to be ready to respond. We've got to be ready to lock things down if we need to. And if we have to respond, we've got to make sure we have the right PPE on, taking the right approach, and doing our job in the best professional manner as possible. When it comes to political instability, widespread governmental failure or collapse rarely occurs in democratic society. It can create chaos and several impede emergency responses. Again, some prevention methods is recognizing the importance of multi-agency preemptive planning and disaster preparedness, and preparing through awareness, training, planning, and assistance to ensure population's safety. Again, this year has just kind of been one of those years that we're kind of encountering a little bit of everything. The political instability, you can look at it as this whole election as being an instability, the whole transition from one president to the next. Already hearing different things.
It's full of shit.
Can we have a break?
I tooted.
Yeah, let me finish this slide. We'll take
I'm pretty sure they're taking a break.
I probably should go to the bathroom.
And I'm pretty sure it's coming this way.
I didn't realize it would be that bad. It
Oh,
just snuck
oh
out.
man.
It just snuck out.
Oh.
I was up for 20 minutes on a dang phone call, and now it's... So what are we talking about? Disaster? Human caused disasters?
Human disaster right
Hazardous
there.
materials.
We're not
Or
prepared for
terroristic.
that.
It could be a terroristic.
Yeah.
You might have did it on purpose.
Sorry. I didn't
You
mean,
definitely
I interrupted.
influenced some people.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me finish this thought. We'll break it up. But I mean, the whole transition from one president to the next. The whole Trump's plan versus Biden's plan with how to handle COVID or how to handle the different things and all that. Will it be smooth? Will it not be smooth? I mean, it changes again, just like the weather on a daily basis. But at the same time, there's no telling what can happen, with this whole entire current situation. But again, if any type of political instability can definitely create and impede our emergency response for the situation we're encountering. All right, let's say 10.
So do you know how, I heard yesterday how COVID is politically manufactured.
Really?
Biden came out with a press release and said that if Trump doesn't concede and he take office, more people will die from
Yes.
COVID.
Yes.
And I was like,
I saw it. I saw
Sorry
it.
about that. That's why I said I'm sorry. I was
Well,
like,
I thought you were
what are you
talking
talking about?
Yeah, I saw that.
And then it hit.
I figured it would.
It was that tidal. It was that tidal wave.
I smelled it, I was like, oh, that was bad.
Hey, I was gonna ask you a question.
Tuesdays.
Are the
Only answer questions on Tuesdays.
okay, well,
Fuck, that's today's Tuesday.
are the SOGs uploaded into Target Solution?
Yeah, they should be. Hold on. I'll tell you real quick.
Just leave this on the back table. It still smells a little to me. Maybe it's just my imagination.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's just gonna be one long video for TJ. No, I don't think we put them in because when we did the rest of the stuff, we didn't have the operational yet.
Okay. And the reason I was asking is because at the Willowfork, we do Target Solutions also, and they have the kind of like the protocol stuff, and they'll pull that specific page out and post it into the training part of it, for the class, and you can reference that off of that for the questions that are asked in the training that they put out. And I didn't know, and I didn't think I saw them in there, and I didn't know if we didn't put them in because we just didn't know, or.
No, it's one of those that when we were doing it, they've just been approved, and so we didn't put them in there.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like we quit putting the protocols in there because it kept changing. Like, I don't know if we ever get a finalized, like, okay, these are it.
We're not, because they're gonna change continuously, because there's so many different things that are coming down that he wants to change and do and stuff, so
It makes it hard to hold people accountable.
they're gonna be so dynamic that they just, and as they happen, the only thing I can do is send them over and re-upload them up and again. Like right now, I gotta put in the blood warmer, fluid warmer, I've gotta put in the infusion pump. I've gotta put in the procedures and all that kind of stuff that goes with that stuff. We're gonna be probably taking out TXA come first of the year. So I mean,
Because we're carrying blood.
that's the primary reason. He was gonna pull it, but then he talked to a big wig that is well versed with TXA, and he says, no, it still has its use in the protocol, so mid-year, next year, we'll look at it
Yeah,
again.
it's powerful back here.
To see if it's still, if it's effective, or is it something that we still need to do. I would like to think that we get to a point where yes. Because, I mean, they're constant, he's
I
constantly.
mean, and that's on a training aspect,
Who all
it's
did-
holding
it's
people
difficult.
accountable.
Who all did it?
It's difficult.
Me,
I was
TJ,
running triple
and
P
Brandon.
And the only,
20 up.
Everybody passed.
What's that?
The other guys are
once we
scheduled to do it on
get
like another
everything done,
shift
I get
because
all this
they're
protocol and everything.
like
done,
Russell's hurt again.
I think we'll be
He's
okay,
him
but
and,
that's gonna be finite until
Frank wanna
maybe
do
a
it
year down the
another
road,
day,
you know, when we start looking at other
and I
things.
think Ed just
But
wasn't
I
here.
think once we do that, come first of the year, in the next couple months, that I get this
That's
stuff.
cool.
and I can
We'll have
put it in,
100%, you know.
I'll send them and we can upload it. And we should be okay.
Well, that's like when I was writing the SOG test over the operational. The stuff that got, the SOGs that got approved or got uploaded, there's so many mistakes and outdated stuff in there. It's like, we may have read them, but we didn't read them.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, so it's one of those, it's like, all right, well, we're gonna grade him on what it says, not what we do.
I think most of us went through it not for not for understanding, but for errors per se. That's the way I approach it at least.
well, I think there was some updated stuff in there that was outdated as far as procedures and things of that nature that were changed.
Yeah.
But I think there's still some things that could possibly be updated in that aspect.
Wasn't that the whole point of the
Well, yeah, but I think the problem is, and you know, maybe this is gonna kind of hurts us because not everybody's well
So many
versed
eyes
on.
looking at it, people are just like, oh, let's just get it done, let's just get it done. To where if you had 3 people looking at it and like, because one set of eyes, you won't see any mistakes. 21 sets of eyes,
You may have 21 different mistakes.
you're gonna get mind numb and you're not gonna do anything. But if you had 3 or 4, where it's like, okay,
But
then
you also have the problem that the new techniques and procedures, not everybody knows that. So you can't say, well, we're gonna change this. Or we're not gonna change it because we don't know that there's anything new out there. And then there are those that say, well, you know what? Been reading these articles, all these different, what do you call them? Like
Are we talking
NIOSH.
about the protocols or?
No, the SOGs, you know, like NIOSH, you know, talking about SCBA's, and this is what they're looking at. You know, how do we change our SOG for air packs? You know, not everybody reads that, so not everybody knows, hey, this is what's coming down the pipe, let's change it now. It's just, like you said, they all read it, looked for mistakes, everything looked good, boom, we're done. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
When we finish our SOGs and stuff like that, do they ever get sent like to legal to get looked at
I think
beforehand?
I thought y'all sent them to legal.
No, something we've talked about doing.
I thought y'all were gonna do that.
No.
I know, like, for example, when we were going through some stuff, we found minor grammatical things or whatever type of thing, but are there things that just don't line up with what we're trying to do?
See, I think that's the problem is there was no clear expectation and too much assuming. A lot of the department was just going through it for errors.
And there was no updating of future procedures and protocols, if you will, as to
But that,
how can we make this SOG bring it to the times where we're.
so I'm gonna let you know this, from a line personnel perspective, this is what we looked at it as. You guys were giving it to us to review, but it was more of my mindset, errors on the paper. You guys were given a task to do the updating, to do the research, to do all that, to upgrade the SOG. Whoever was given an assignment to do that, that was your assignment. We were just kind of, everything's flowing, everything's looking good.
it
So-
says and it should just say and.
Right, exactly.
Whereas it goes from 1, 2, 5, 6. It's
Right.
like,
We need to get our strategic plan updated and all that, and then filter it down from there.
That and.
Well, the last time,
you know, what
the
we-
first time?
you know,
I don't ever remember it getting pushed, it was just kinda handed out to the officers, like, hey, this is.
I still have, I think I still have it.
Well, you just sent it out,
You just sent it out, yeah.
but it was never like pushed down and trained
Yeah,
on.
there was never that whole implementation process or anything like that.
Just like, hey,
A lot of talk was
It's
going
gonna
on.
sound weird. Would you grab my wrist and just hold it and pull?
This is not like this is not like a, you know, pull my finger type.
pull my
of thing.
finger, I'm gonna
I'm literally
shit
just
all
stretching
over
my
you.
neck and shoulder a little. Oh,
Thank you. That helped as well.
no, it's only this side.
If you would let go, that would have been funny, but I would have been already
I used to have it
so
done,
bad.
you'd take my arm.
No, it was,
And it's just kinda
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh.
Go
And
back.
then he
I got it
taught
out.
me.
Which one you
how to
go
do
in?
him.
The girls.
He,
We used to be the girls.
Used to be the girls, okay.
He would, because that's.
Yeah, you probably wanna go with
I'm gonna go the other one.
Because of my
Yeah, we're
neck.
gonna go on and wrap this up.
Big weekend
And
sometimes.
then he would say, okay,
This side, just trying to.
because I'm having that same
Turning
issue.
into something
oh,
real,
like
you know what I mean?
157,
these muscles get
like
like
60 horsepower.
Yeah. Well, and not only is it a bunch of physicality, it's a high adrenaline type thing, which tightens everything up. But
It's been a rough semester.
it's hard
Yeah.
to get an adrenaline junkie.
Yes, it has.
Well, before all this, I'd taken 2 other classes to another college.
I thought you were slacking off on that, or,
and let 'em-
No, not in my master's. I took a couple Bible classes.
oh, okay,
It is you register in August.
yeah.
It's like, oh, we just have instructor. Okay, so that's fine. And then I'll have the rest of the semester. And then this came up, it's like, oh, I can't pass this up. Man, that's like 4 really intense classes.
And then you were gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Remember, the Bible classes aren't important, right? So,
Yeah, I know. That's where the inner debate comes. It's like,
exactly.
I'm not taking any cut. I don't know. I have to reevaluate my priorities. As far as classes are concerned. This has been a terrible semester.
It's 2020.
And not terrible, they're all good classes. It's just the fact that everything came in at the same time. It's like,
This is not a good class.
I'm trying.
So he said we can incorporate
Yes, sir.
4 skills into 3s, and we have 1 die.
Just write one paper and make sure you.
No,
get
we're on a break.
yourself.
That's why I answered.
Yeah.
What's up? It's quite possible. Yeah, info for checkoff on the boat. And that,
Hey, did you get my email about this, CC?
and that's to enter into the
Yes.
asset management, right?
What are your thoughts on that?
That's for asset
We kind
management?
of talked about it, but
Okay.
Go back and look at it again.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
basically,
bring it up.
before we renew anybody at a level 2 Swiftwater, it's like, whenever we're on TDM or TIFMAS.
Okay.
You have to be
Yeah.
willing to
We'll, I appreciate it.
deploy.
Alright,
And if you wanna go to the next level boat operator class, you have to be willing to deploy. We'll recertify you where you're at, but if you're 1, which is only like 3 or 4 people, and you're not willing to deploy, well, in Bel Air, we don't need more than a 1.
I'll go with it. That's how we're gonna work the incentive pay.
Huh?
That's how we're looking at working the incentive pay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up. So technological disasters involve failure of technology on a widespread basis covering large geographical areas. Cost and loss, productivity, and tax revenues have indirect effect on fire and emergency service organizations. What was the big scare? Was it Y2K?
Oh, yeah.
That was
All
a
the
big-
zeros. And
Yeah, that was a big scare of a potential technological disaster, nationwide. So thinking about that, you know, technology is great. We look at the, you know, at least internally, we look at the fire trucks, the future of the fire trucks, how technology advanced those are. But if you have a failure point, you know, what's the operation like if you can and cannot operate it? But you know, again, how many different things have we seen where the data has been breached here lately? Driver's license in the state of Texas
just happened.
Yeah, DPS had a breach of driver's license information from many people in the state of Texas. So there's the potential is there, and there's individuals are waiting to push the right button. Again, some preventive and preparedness methods, preparing to respond to disasters and reduce the effects on service areas. Conducting an essential planning with other agencies to reduce long-term effects. I mean, hey, what if we have a radio failure? How are we going to communicate with dispatch? How are we going to get the information? Cell phones? I mean, what if you have service areas?
Runners?
Huh?
Runners?
Runners? I don't know, we just have to figure out, you know, be creative and think outside the box. If we had a, you know, if the Houston Tower radio system goes down. Plus is if the radio system goes down in Houston and it affects our radio, we've got to back up with Harris County.
Call a cow.
Call a cow, things of that nature as well. So there's different ways to help offset, but we've got to make sure that we are planning, we've got to make sure we're versed, and we've got to make sure we're able to identify when that does occur.
So how does that work if we lose all available communications and we request a cow, and they only have one, don't they, for the county?
I don't remember why.
How does that How does that get designated, or is it a centralized location for multiple agencies?
It depends on, I guess, who all the affected area is, who's all involved in the affected area.
But again, I mean, that's what I'm saying, is it, you can't just designate it for one, is it centralized for that area that's lost everything, and everybody operates off of that cow?
That's the way I would understand it.
So are we at a lower priority since we have our own dispatch system
And we could be, I mean, it would be, you know,
an OEM or?
doing a star request for.
We lose our ability to dispatch, our ability to cell phones, anything that we can use to communicate. And let's say it takes out the whole southwest side of Houston, incorporating Westview, Bel Air, and the village. Does that cow come in and set up in a strategic location, and then everybody that can operate off of that, the four entities can operate off of that?
Just memorize 8132.
Which is?
Russell Brown. Call that extension, tell him the problem you have if he doesn't already know it. And he'll get it.
Fix it permanently.
You need a cow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the cow system works as far as if it was the southwest region that included us, if there would be a centralized location for it, then you kind of build from there or what, I don't know. But we would have to request it through Harris County OEM, through the STAR report, and then wait and see, you know, that they can fill it. So when it comes to interagency relations, you know, as a comprehensive community disaster plan, depends on the ability to work, depends on the ability of agencies to work together. Open communications, understanding, to mutual respect. You know, not just y'all talking and meeting with Westview, but getting out and the neighboring departments, getting out and knowing and understanding the different Harris County officials, Harris County OEM, getting out and understanding TxDOT, you know, get to know them, Coast Guard, different ones that we might encounter and work with out there. Build those communications, have an understanding of who to call, when to call, and what their job functions would be. I mean, you would never think that if you had, you know, the gasoline spill, that we would have Coast Guard involved. But because it goes to Praise Bio, which goes out to, you know, open waters and all that stuff, that's an agency that's involved because of potential for the hazmat to flow out there. And then obviously that mutual respect, knowing, you know, through networking, knowing that you can pick up the phone and call to, even if it's just to get advice, to ask questions. You know, if we request resources, we got to make sure we do it in the right way, because again, it comes back to cost allocation. And if we don't do it the right way, we could be responsible for the entire bill and not the county or the state. So interagency planning team and unified command steps.
Can you elaborate on that?
Which one?
Yeah, you talked about that a little bit last week, right?
Elaborate on the right process.
So say you're on an emergency incident where we need a cow, we need a resource that we have to get from the county. We don't have it, Westview doesn't have it, so we need to call up to the county. So y'all, whoever the incident commander is, basically would contact me. I would get on WebEOC, I would put in my STAR report for the city, contact Harris County OEM, let them know what we've got going on, and then they would see our resource request. If they can fill it, then they submit it to us, send us the resource with all the information, and we have it. Whereas if, you know, we're working an incident and Doug's got connections with somebody in Cleveland that's got an airboat per se, all right, we'll just use that since David mentioned it. Doug picks up the phone, calls Cleveland, who's high and dry right now, calls them for an airboat, they bring the airboat here. Well, the airboat goes through, we go to submit everything, well, the county's looking at, you know, all the resource requests, we go for reimbursement, for payment. Well, we didn't go through the proper channels. We didn't call the county to request a resource, we just called them directly. So we can be responsible for the payment, the bill that they charged to bring that airboat here if they were to charge.
So
It's just like hazmats. If you call a cleanup crew, like if you pick up the phone and you call a cleanup crew without getting the truck driver or the company's information and who they want to use, the city's responsible for that.
So if I'm hearing you right, how does it work if we need a hazmat crew?
If we didn't
And I
have,
just get as instant commander or 33 Alpha, whatever. If I just 33 Comp Center, can you contact Harris County or Houston Fire
Yes.
for a hazmat team? Can you send them to us?
It's different if you're requesting a hazmat team,
yeah,
but if you're requesting a cleanup company,
cleanup company.
Okay.
But the
We're talking about specialized.
specialized,
So
specialized
call
resources.
in heavy rescue from Houston or the hazmat team from.
That's operational.
That's, yeah, we're covered under our mutual aid agreements with them.
Okay. So this
These are gonna be
that
out,
doesn't need to
anything,
go through
no,
you.
these are out, things that are resources unavailable to us.
So don't pick up the phone and call Verde Environmental going, hey, I've got a hazmat, I'd like y'all to come out and clean it
Yeah,
up.
during Hurricane Harvey, our PD was stretched thin. Chief Leal at the time had contacted DPS. Contacted DPS to get some crews in here to help relieve our staff. They sent 9 officers, they patrolled our city, all right? Had they sent a bill, we would most likely would have been responsible for it, but on the same time, DPS, if they go get reimbursement because it didn't go through the proper channel, they'd get denied reimbursement as well. So that's why you gotta go for the specialized resources, go through the proper channels in order to take the funding off of us and at the same time allow them, if they go to get reimbursement for their time, they're able to get reimbursement.
So maybe a more realistic one, I don't know, like
Um,
the rocks we had on the highway. Our city doesn't have backhoes or any kind of heavy equipment available. We come to you first.
If you need like backhoes, like from TxDOT,
Yeah.
you can call TxDOT directly.
That's not a good example.
Yeah, so that's not a good example. Yeah,
I'm
you
trying
can,
to play a different scenario.
no, yeah.
Text wasn't available and you needed to try and find a construction
Yes,
company,
sir.
you have to go through the right request process, or we're responsible for the bill.
Okay, let's go a step further. Say we needed some backhoes, okay, on Bel Air Boulevard in South Rice.
Yeah.
Because TxDOT's not a good example, because TxDOT owns 610. All right, so that's why you can call TxDOT directly, because they have
So
resources.
on our city limit, on our city property.
City property, if Public Works didn't have it, we couldn't find it, we could reach out to the county. County could get us backhoes, whatever we
But we
need.
have to go through you.
We have to go, yeah, through me to fill this out, to contact Harris
That's
County.
a better example. I'm just trying to be realistic.
Right,
It
absolutely.
happened.
Because another example, like remember when the wildland fires happened up North Texas
Right.
5-7 years ago? There was a fire department up there that went deployed and went and fought fire. Spent days fighting fire. When they went back and they submitted all their reimbursement stuff because they weren't requested in the right response, right way, they were denied their reimbursement too.
are you the only one that can put in a STAR request, or
I'm not the only one, no. I mean,
something, just, you were gone?
if I was gone, I
you go
mean,
through Chief Moses?
if,
or-
you know, anybody trained in WebEOC that's got the designation, that can do it. But if we had an incident where we needed a STAR request, you know, we need to make sure we notify, you know, Harris County OEM, hey, this is what we've got going on. We've got a STAR request coming your way for this incident, so that way they're aware of it coming and not just doing a start request and just sitting out there and never get filled because they're not aware of the incident we have here. That better? Okay. So under your interagency planning team as a unified command steps are applicable to disaster planning. Each involved agency has stake in the results and valid input. You got, again, determine your jurisdictional authority and integrate resources through mutual aid agreements or contracts. So you've got to discuss, the planning. You've got to discuss your relations. You've got to, Harris County OEM does a good job having quarterly meetings with the emergency managers, getting the information out, what's going on, what they're doing, getting our feedback. As far as determine jurisdictional authority, that jurisdictional authority is basically our city limits. So anything outside of our city limits, if we make decisions, again, we can be responsible, but at the same time, we've got to make sure that we're not deciding things, for the city of Houston in their area in which they cover, unless we were designated and told, hey, take care of it and handle it. Again, integrated resources through mutual aid agreements and contracts. The more you can get done and established ahead of time before the incident, before the event, the lot smoother things go. So vertical jurisdiction and horizontal jurisdiction. So, I'm trying to remember how this one was worded in there. So basically, there's horizontal jurisdiction is going to be more, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be more of your local, across the board type authority, being able to make the decisions here, getting the resources we need within our city, to where if we have to go outside our jurisdiction for resources, we have to go up the chain, follow the process. Again, there's certain things that we can call, that we can request, as far as resources ahead of time, but then there's things that we have to follow a process through the county as well. I mean, the county's a good role as far as getting resources, and a lot of that may come into play more when it comes to a disaster declaration and all that as well too. But again, it all goes back to funding. If you need resources, we're going to get you the resources. It just may take a couple extra steps to make happen, but we're gonna work it and make it happen one way or another. From an EOC standpoint, remember, this is a temporary or permanent physical location where information and resources can be coordinated to support the incident management activities. Again, from an EOC standpoint, it's not our job to manage what y'all are doing out in the field. It's not our job to say, hey, you got flames coming out that left window, you need to put the fire out. It's our job to see, okay, what resources you might need, start planning down the road, planning in the future, setting up bases, setting up camps, getting food, getting you resources to help support the management, making decisions from a city standpoint, but not micromanaging what's going on out in the field. From a staffing standpoint, remember, this is primarily state and local partners, minimum federal participation, and limited state steady personnel, augmented staff during crisis or EOC stand-up. The good thing is, again, being a small department, everybody here is pretty fluent with EOC operations. Kind of have a good understanding. We do a lot from our department as far as staffing the EOC, but yet still being able to staff our units out in the field during our different operational periods. Years ago, when Harris County activated their EOC, we would have to send somebody from our jurisdiction to go stay at Harris County OEM as a liaison, as a point of contact. Now we're able to do everything through web EOC, through the phone, and not have to go send somebody and stay down there for the duration of the incident. Remember, the primary focus of the EOC is the multi-agency coordination of information and resources to support the incident management. So it provides protected space for leadership to manage the incident. The mayor and city manager, police and law enforcement, fire, medical, EPA, and DSH, Department of Homeland Security. These are all factors when it comes to EOC. We have our local EOC, and then we coordinate and work with Harris County EOC. And then from Harris County, they coordinate and work with the state EOC. And from there is where the coordination and the allocations come in. Again, we see it from our perspective, but they see it from a complete bigger perspective from the county level. And they really, when we request resources, they're getting all the resource requests, and they're looking at, they're trying to prioritize who gets what. The issue we encounter here is, and it happened a lot during Hurricane Harvey, is Harris County OEM and the City of Houston OEM fought against each other. When it came to resource request, resources went, and a lot of times when the county requested the resources, the City of Houston took them, and vice versa. So it really created issues for the smaller jurisdictions as far as trying to get the resources that we needed to get the job done. Again, the city manager is also part of the emergency management team as well as the incident commander. The mayor, some mayors are the incident commander for an EOC as well. Our mayor is more of he's proactive, but he acts as a liaison, be able to communicate between what's going on in the city and council. We have a strict policy where we don't allow any council members up here during the EOC activation. We've really tried to trim that down as far as unnecessary individuals being able to be down in this area during an activation, because we get a lot of distractions. We get a lot of sidebar conversations that really takes us away from what we need to really be focused on. So from the EOC staff, it's our job to provide resources, contact higher levels of government, and coordinate activities of agencies that do not have representatives at the command post. Again, it's our job to kind of look at what's going on from the boots on the ground, get the feedback and information from the operations section chief, plan for long-term here, but also work on obtaining the resources that y'all need and keeping the upper level governments in communication with what's going on locally for us. Again, disaster resource allocations with disasters require more resources than normal incidents. During planning, resources are identified and assigned based on type of disaster. There's nothing wrong with, if we know that Cleveland's got 5 airboats, us setting up an agreement with Cleveland that says, hey, if we need it, can we call you? We can do that ahead of time, and vice versa. Resources maintaining the EOC and mobile command posts or officer vehicles. And there's nothing wrong with having a list of resources, who to call for different situations. If you have a isolated incident that's not involving more than just our jurisdiction, knowing who to call, because if we were to call Harris County to look for a resource, we could say, hey, you know what, contacting you, we're looking for this resource. I know, because in Web EOC, a lot of times it shows resources that are available. And I know Cleveland's got 5 boats, but they're currently using 2, which means they have 3 available. So again, just knowing your resources, who to call, because you talked about hazmat units. TJ, we got Harris County, we got City of Houston, and then I think Fort Bend County is up and running.
They're just new, right?
Yeah, they're up and running too. So we have some different options. Again, plan implementation is a comprehensive disaster plan requires preparedness to be effective. Agencies, one, must understand the plan. We can put together a plan all day long, but if you don't understand the plan, you don't read through it, and ask the questions that you may need to ask, then you're not going to know what's readily available. You've got to recognize your role in the plan, what areas you're responsible for, how you handle those areas in those situations, how to be able to commit resources when you need to commit them, how you commit them and where you put them, and do you do a staging, do you do level 1, do you do level 2, training and implementing the plan. Again, before you actually put it in place, you've got to make sure we're training everybody. Guidelines for implementation must establish under what condition the plan is activated. Are there special times to where this plan is activated, like during hurricane season? We had a hurricane season plan where we did the fuel levels were done differently from June to November, and chainsaws and this and that, but then on December 1st through May, we went back to the old way. So when is the plan activated? Who may declare a state of emergency? For us, the governor can declare a state of emergency, the county judge can declare a state of emergency, and then our mayor can declare local emergency, not state, but county emergency, local emergency. But at the same time, we can have a disaster declaration in our city, and not affect Harris County or not affect the state. So we just gotta make sure, the mayor's real fluent with that information. If we make the recommendation, we can justify it. We do the right required paperwork. He does what he needs to do to make that happen. And then we send that disaster declaration or this emergency paperwork up to the county, and then the county sends it up to the state. And the steps each agency takes to fulfill their responsibilities. So again, plan implementation must happen before the incident. It's got to be implemented during the incident, and then it's got to be evaluated and implemented after the incident. We've got to make sure that we're doing what we're asked to do before the situation takes effect. But then at the same time, what's our mitigation standpoint? What are we doing after the incident to help get us back ready to go again? But at the same time, are we need to modify or replace our plan as we move along? Contingency plans should include alternative communication systems. If our communication system goes down, what's our backup plan? Alternate EOC locations. If for whatever reason we're not able to set up the EOC here, the courts is our backup EOC. Secondary resources, okay, if Westview's high water vehicle is not available, maybe Southside got one, and that would be a backup. Temporary authority over agencies that do not have representatives at the EOC. Who's in charge? Who do I call? What actions do need to be taken? The good thing is with cell phones, you can contact, Brant if we need something. You can contact, whoever the city manager is, or myself, or anybody of that nature. We can get you in touch with the right individual to make things happen. Then alternative authority for disaster management in the event the EOC cannot be activated for whatever reason. Maybe it's been bulldozed or whatever because of the natural disaster, tornado knocked it out, and we're not able to have an EOC. So where do we go from there? We might set up an alternative one at Westview, or give them Westview the authority to make decisions over in our jurisdiction, or give the county the authority to make decisions in our jurisdiction as well. Training is essential. I can't express that enough. We've got to make sure we're training not just annually, but obviously when there's change in personnel. You look at our EOC, we've had some retirement, which led to some position changes, but we've got to make sure we get those individuals that are trained for their role and responsibility. We can say that Doug's logistics section chief, but if we don't provide him the resources and the training that he needs to do his job, he's not going to be able to do his job as effective as it could be, or as it needs to be. We need to look at all the incidents and do a post-incident analysis. You need to go back and debrief. Debrief right away. You need to go back, a couple weeks later and debrief. Put things on the board. What was good? What was bad? What was the areas that need improvement? Don't be afraid to, if there's things that really just you didn't agree with, or you didn't, want to know why this was done compared to this, put it out there. Because one, if you don't, you're never going to find out why. It's going to be always constantly on your mind and all that. And then all we're going to do is repeat our same actions if we don't try to find ways to improve as well. We've got to make sure that we exercise, do training, we do exercises, tabletops, to be as authentic as time and resources allow. Some aspects, type of disaster scope event, can be kept secret for participants. You can put together training and basically put a scenario up here, and while everybody's working, you can drop an inject and say, okay, you had floodwaters in the Southdale area. Well, now all of a sudden, the bridge at Bel Air and 610 just collapsed, and now your main lanes is blocked. What do you do? And kind of let them stem from there and different things of that nature. Need to involve EMS and healthcare services. It's not, when we do trainings with our plan, we can bring outside agencies. We can bring in Harris County OEM. We can bring in public health. We can bring in textile. We can bring in public works. All the different departments. It doesn't have to be just City of Bel Air. We can do a very large scale type tabletop scenario and train and learn from one another. Incident termination may occur in different phases. Personnel units or agencies released when no longer needed. Remember, when it comes to releasing personnel units or agencies, you start the demobilization process when the incident begins. You think about, all right, how I'm gonna release, who I'm gonna release, and then you gotta understand what their quality level is. You know, if you release engine 33, but they've been working for the past 12 hours and they're tired and exhausted and ready to go home, well, before they're actually released, you might say, okay, you're being reassigned back to the station. You and your crew need to shower, get a bite to eat, and take a 6-hour nap before you're released to go home. Because if you release a resource and they're not in the right state of mind or whatever, and you don't give them the ample time to be fit, I guess you could say, to be released, and if something happens, you can be held liable from a city standpoint. Phases depend on disaster type and obviously the magnitude. And the incident commander has the ultimate authority to declare the incident termination. You know, so again, you can release, you know, outside agencies at one time, release certain units at another, and then personnel last. But again, it depends upon the disaster type, you know, because as we know, as these disasters, they get complex and grow. But then as we start resolving the issues and bringing everything down, they come back and get smaller again. And then at the point where everything's completed, that's when the incident commander will declare the incident completely terminated. So from a recovery and rehabilitation, fire and emergency service personnel can assist as long as duties do not interfere with emergency response. You know, we can assist with security. We can assist with law enforcement. You know, we can put the incident commander out to go patrol the streets to help Bel Air PD. You know, if you see something, you say something. Hey, something looks suspicious, you call it on the radio just to give an extra set of eyes. Or if we're guarding resources or whatnot that's being blocked, we can put a crew over there. Susan's dispatching.
Did he always tell?
Alarm. All right.
Residential alarm.
Debris removal. There's things that we can do from a fire service on debris removal. I mean, we're out there. We've done it before during Ike. We go up and we help Public Works. We cut trees. We clear the roadway and open the roadway up. Do what? And throw water bottles. I know what you're talking about. And then restoration of services. I mean, you know, we can find ways, you know, like I think it was during Harvey, you know, we had crews that were out picking up trash, you know, trying to help Public Works get things back up and running, restore services for the city, looking at different things in that aspect as well. So it's not always about doing fire and emergency services. It's about doing what's best for the city to the best of our ability moving forward. So obviously the first objective in the restoration of fire and emergency service is staffing and re-equipping the apparatus and facilities at the incident depleted or damaged. When making structure fire, the first thing we do when we come back, we clean our equipment, we clean our truck, we put our truck back in service, and then we take care of ourselves, get new clothes, take showers, and all that. We've got to make sure we restore our units. Once the units are ready, they may assist in restoration of other services. So, you know, if we have a big traumatic EMS call, you know, the medic unit comes back, pumper crew comes down, helps the medic crew out, they get them restocked, cleaned up, ready to go, and then once they're done, they may go over and do the engine or vice versa. So we can help one another once we take care of our own units. Okay. Any questions?